My mother-in-law secretly swapped my daughter with her own, all because she couldn't bear to see her own daughter suffer, and my husband silently condoned it all, but I quietly switched the babies back, telling no one. Thus, my daughter was raised like a precious jewel, while my sister-in-law endured torment and ran away from home. Years later, my mother-in-law was unexpectedly diagnosed with cancer and produced a paternity test, demanding that her daughter fulfill her filial duties. I glanced at my smug husband and said with a faint smile, "Fine, since there was a mistake, let's swap them back. I'll return your daughter to you, you return my daughter to me." My mother-in-law has cancer. When I got the news, my daughter Song Wanqing and I were out shopping. My husband Chen Bin frantically called me over a dozen times, as if his mother was about to die any second. The house was packed with neighbors who had come to visit my mother-in-law. As soon as I walked in, sympathetic or gloating eyes fell on me. Not long after, my mother-in-law pulled out a paternity test report and handed it to me. Daughter-in-law, a few years ago when Chen Nan was sick, I took her to the hospital for a checkup. That's when I discovered that Chen Nan isn't actually my daughter. Wanqing is my real daughter. The hospital mixed them up at birth. I originally intended to take this matter to my grave. But I have cancer, and I don't have many days left. If Wanqing could just call me Mom once, I could die without any regrets. Wanqing, my precious darling, Mom really can't bear to leave you. The mother-in-law threw herself onto her daughter, wailing as tears streamed down her face. The elderly people in the room also began wiping away tears. Sister, your child is right here. Don't talk about death. It's inauspicious. That's right. Medical science is so advanced these days. Your good days are still ahead of you. Look how well our Wanqing has turned out. She's a university student. What a blessing you have, elder sister. Amidst the chorus of advice from everyone, my daughter turned and looked at me with an indescribable gaze. I sneered, picked up the paternity test report, and tore it to shreds on the spot. Daughter becomes granddaughter, sister becomes daughter, brother becomes father. Such a disgusting act, so devoid of ethics, is something no one with a shred of conscience could ever do. Yet Chen Bin's family not only did it, but they did it with a sense of righteous entitlement. Seeing my action, Chen Bin sprang to his feet. Song Zheng, what do you mean by this? The two children must be swapped back. It's my mother's only wish. If you don't agree, we'll get a divorce. Chen Bin spoke with finality, eager to see me break down. Two children, one as beautiful as a flower and a student at a prestigious university, the other emaciated, having long since run away from home and disappeared without a trace. Anyone would be devastated, let alone me, having only given birth to one daughter in my lifetime. The sympathetic gazes of the neighbors fell upon me once more, yet they remained silent out of respect for the deceased. Seeing that I refused to agree to swap the two children, my mother-in-law began wailing again, and in a fit of emotion, even performed a dramatic act of spitting up blood on the spot. My daughter, a sight to break the heart and bring tears to the eyes. Chen Bin was even more heartbroken for his mother, glaring at me angrily. Song Zheng, are you going to agree or not? Do you want to drive my mother to her grave before you're satisfied? My daughter, whom I raised with such hardship, and you think you can just take her away with a few words? You have such a big appetite, aren't you afraid of choking on it? But I looked at my smug husband and said, fine, since it was a mistake, let's swap back. I'll return your daughter to you, you return my daughter to me, too. My mother-in-law and husband's faces stiffened, and the scene fell into an eerie silence. Everyone knew that Chen Nan had run away from home 3 years ago, all because she ate a piece of braised pork. Her mother-in-law chased her from upstairs to downstairs with a wrist-thick stick, beating and cursing her all the while. Are you a starving ghost reincarnated? That braised pork was made for your niece. How could you, as an elder, have the nerve to eat it? I'll beat you to death today, you wretched girl. The mother-in-law struck with extreme force. If it weren't for the neighbors intervening, Chen Nan might have been beaten to death. It was the dead of winter, yet Chen Nan was still wearing shorts and a short-sleeved shirt, her body covered in dense scars. Some were from bamboo canes, others from cigarette burns, and there was even a large burn scar on her face. Unable to bear it any longer, Chen Nan mustered the courage for the first time to confront her. You hate me so much, you should never have given birth to me in the first place, then I wouldn't be in the way of you remarrying. If my dad knew how you were abusing his daughter, he'd probably wish he could strangle you right now. Chen Nan couldn't understand why her mother-in-law was so cruel to her, a posthumous child, when her parents had been exceptionally loving. The mother-in-law was so furious she nearly died on the spot and immediately ordered Chen Nan to get out of the house, and Chen Nan was stubborn too. For 3 years, She never set foot in that house again. She's not my daughter. How should I know? You're her mother. Go look for her yourself. The mother-in-law, holding Song Wanqing on the sofa, felt somewhat guilty. Enough, don't make things difficult for Mom anymore. Mom has put a lot of effort into Chen Nan, beating and scolding her. But unfortunately, Chen Nan is just born bad. Thankfully, Mom made her drop out of school early. Otherwise, who knows how many more men she would have seduced at school. Let me tell you, even if she comes back, I won't acknowledge her. Chen Bin lit a cigarette, looking utterly pleased with himself through the swirling smoke as he watched my embarrassed expression. I know that every time he reluctantly lowers his head to me, he lights a cigarette and stubs it out on Chen Nan's body. I thought that after seeing his true colors back then, I had already given up on him, but at this moment, I am still filled with rage. I can hardly imagine what would have happened if I hadn't gotten my daughter back. How heartbroken must she be? Being mistreated by her own grandmother and viewed that way by her father at such a young age. If she ran away, would she even encounter kind-hearted people? No, perhaps she would have died before even meeting anyone. Those two are simply beasts. I closed my eyes for a moment, pulled out the charging cable from my bag, and made a motion to swing it at Song Wanqing. You know the truth, yet you dare to deliberately mistreat my daughter. You mistreat my daughter, I will mistreat your daughter. Whatever life Chen Nan had before, Song Wanqing will live the same life now. My expression was ferocious, exactly like a heartbroken mother who had learned the truth. My mother-in-law and Chen Bin were utterly astonished. They had anticipated my various reactions, but never imagined I could truly be so ruthless to my own daughter. My daughter screamed, "Grandma, my mom, she's gone crazy, save me." My mother-in-law reacted swiftly, quickly shielding my daughter beneath her. Smack! A long, thin wound immediately appeared on the mother-in-law's face, oozing fresh blood. Son, save me quickly, your wife has gone mad." I kicked Chen Bin away with one foot and reached out to grab Song Wanqing, who was hiding behind my mother-in-law. At this moment, the mother-in-law played the role of a mother perfectly, shielding her daughter firmly behind her. "Song Zheng, if you have any grievances, take them out on me. You couldn't even recognize your own daughter. That's your own stupidity. I'm not as useless as you. Today, I absolutely won't allow you to harm Wanqing in the slightest. Not being able to recognize my own daughter is because I'm stupid." I grabbed the mother-in-law by the hair and pinned her against the balcony. "Yes, I'm stupid, you're not. You're so clever. You, this grandmother who clearly knows the truth, deliberately abused my daughter. Today, I will avenge my daughter." 3. My mother-in-law was half hanging outside, her hands and feet flailing non-stop, her entire face flushed red. The neighbors who had been watching the drama rushed over, urging me not to do anything foolish. I turned my head and roared, "You're pretending to be good people now. When they wanted to swap the child earlier, you all stayed silent. And now, when trouble arises, you come to act like righteous wolves. I'm telling you, this isn't over." Upon hearing this, the crowd looked somewhat sheepish, each trying to shirk responsibility, saying it wasn't their business. A young girl in the crowd shouted, "Sister, don't be afraid of these hypocrites. I'm on your side. Don't you dare do anything foolish. Your daughter is waiting for you." Chen Bin's expression changed upon hearing this. If this matter blew up, it would be over. "Song Zheng, let go of my mom." He charged at me, gripping a stick. I couldn't dodge in time and took a solid hit from the stick. The intense pain brought tears to my eyes, and I nearly let go. Seeing this, Chen Bin actually charged at me fiercely, his posture clearly intending to push me off the building. I feigned panic and, as he charged, suddenly bent over and burst into tears. Plop! Chen Bin failed to break in time, and both he and his mother fell down. Every household's balcony was equipped with an awning, and the two of them first landed on it. Help! Then, their hands lost strength, and they fell to the ground in terror. In just a few seconds, both of them were vomiting blood and passed out. Quick, call 120. Save them. Oh my God, this is truly a sin. The crowd was in an uproar. I couldn't bear such a heavy blow and fainted on the spot. Chen Bin and I fell in love freely. I didn't know before marriage that Chen Bin wanted to take advantage of my family's wealth. At that time, I saw my mother-in-law secretly swapping the child. A bad premonition immediately struck me, and I mustered my strength to swap the child back, but I didn't have time to return to my room, so in a panic, I hid in the bathroom. I heard my mother-in-law say smugly, "Son, look at the ugly little girl Song Zheng gave birth to." Chen Bin pinched Chen Nan hard, and she immediately burst into loud wails. Humph, just as annoying as your mother, doing a prenuptial property agreement before marriage. I think she clearly did it on purpose to guard against me. She doesn't treat us as family. My mother-in-law nodded and said viciously, if she's unwilling to spend money to raise my daughter, I'll make her raise her for me herself. I am an orphan. The only thing that gives me a sense of security is money. I see human nature clearly, and I knew Chen Bin would feel uncomfortable in his heart. I just never expected he would tacitly allow his mother's actions. That's his own flesh and blood, his daughter. But the truth was right in front of me, leaving me no choice but to believe it. I held the child and thought all night, my mind racing with so many thoughts that the sun was already high in the branches by the time I finished. Since I couldn't swallow this injustice, I decided to take revenge in the most devastating way, by destroying them both body and soul. Chen Bin and his mother fell from the third floor. Because the floor wasn't very high and the awning provided some cushioning, they only coughed up some blood and broke a few ribs. But after the surgery, Chen's mother, who was already battling cancer, aged over a decade in appearance. After the anesthesia wore off, Mother Chen and Chen Bin lay in their hospital beds. Unable to stop their agonized wails, they were tormented by a pain that clawed at their hearts and lungs, even feeling as if insects were ceaselessly gnawing at their flesh and blood. Their daughter had always been very obedient and sensible, seemingly having truly accepted this reality. She attended to them diligently in the hospital, and by the time they were nearly ready for discharge, the bond between the three of them had grown significantly stronger. So when I dragged in their daughter, bruised and battered, they were utterly heartbroken. Mother Chen cried out in alarm, Wan Qing, your face. The daughter covered her bruised, purple and blue face and wept bitterly, inadvertently revealing the scars on her arm. Just like Chen Nan, there were burn marks and scalds. It was truly horrifying. She knelt before the hospital bed, sobbing, Wah, save me, save me. Mother Chen was so enraged she vomited blood, and the machines by the bedside beeped incessantly. Her face flushed red, and she pointed a trembling finger at me. You venomous woman, you. But my daughter still wasn't satisfied, weeping and wailing. She wants to give me away to be someone's mistress. I don't want to live anymore. Mother Chen's eyes widened. She gasped for breath, and with one last failed gasp, she was rushed straight into the emergency room. Chen Bin straightened up and clamored to call the police. I grabbed my daughter by the neck and laughed. Fine, I'll beat her to death then. For as soon as we left the hospital room, my daughter gave me a look that begged for praise. Mom, I acted well, didn't I? I nodded. She really acted her damn heart out. With a helpless expression, she snatched the cigarette from my hand. Mom, Sis said you can't smoke. With their daughter held as leverage, Chen Bin and his mother didn't dare call the police. Seriously, they were still counting on their daughter for a comfortable life. If something happened to a top university student like her, it would be a terrible loss. I understand the strategy of controlling the emperor to command the nobles. I spat out the yogurt, pulled out the ruler, and swung it at my daughter. Ugh, it's so sour. Are you trying to kill me with sourness? I'll beat you to death, you wretched girl. My daughter stood frozen in place, while my mother-in-law rushed forward and took the full blow of the ruler. Her face twisted in pain, yet she tried to put on a brave front to comfort her daughter. The water is too hot, so I hit someone. The water is too cold, so I hit someone. I hit someone when I'm in a bad mood because I've gained weight, and I hit someone when I'm hungry from dieting. Chen's mother gives me meat. I hit people. Chen's mother doesn't give me meat. I still hit people. Chen Bin walks with sound. I hit people. Chen Bin walks without sound. I still hit people. In just a short month, the two of them were worn down to skin and bones, unable to hold back their tears as they hugged each other and cried, Song Zheng, I want to. Chen's mother covered his mouth in panic. Keep your voice down. She can hear. Watching the surveillance footage, I was extremely satisfied to see the two of them living in fear. Indeed, you only know the pain when the knife is stabbed into your own body. What's the point of bullying a child? If you have the guts, come and bully me. After discussing the strategy with Chen Bin, his mother specially bought a black-bone chicken to make soup for me. She said, daughter-in-law, we are all one family. All the mistakes are mine. I apologize to you. Please don't hold it against Wan Qing anymore. Okay, I picked up the chicken soup and then put it down. She grew anxious. Drink it quickly. Wan Qing. I dragged my daughter into the kitchen, pretending to push her head into the boiling water. Chen's mother panicked and said, it's all my fault. If you're angry, take it out on me. don't hurt Wan Qing. She certainly has a mother's tender heart for her own daughter, but towards someone else's daughter, she has the heart of a snake or scorpion, resorting to beatings, scoldings, and seemingly wishing to torment them to death. Humph, you just want to drug me and lock me up, right? Fine, I won't lock you up, I'll just kill her directly. As her daughter's face drew closer to the boiling water, Mother Chen hurriedly reached out to stop her. The scalding hot water splashed onto Mother Chen's face, causing her skin to split and flesh to tear, yet she still gently comforted her daughter. Wan Qing, Mom is fine, don't worry. I gritted my teeth, eager to see the expression on Mother Chen's face when she learned the truth. The daughter to whom she had shown such a compassionate heart and given so much was an impostor. Her real daughter, whom she had mistreated for years, was now missing and nowhere to be found. Just thinking about this absurd scene makes me want to laugh. Mother Chen was rushed to the hospital. Chen Bin stood outside the operating room, no longer caring about anything else, and slapped me across the face. I sneered and kicked him straight into the wall. Slap, 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 after landing several consecutive slaps that left Chen Bin dazed and disoriented. The rage in my heart finally subsided a little. Not long after, a doctor rushed out in a panic. Massive hemorrhage, go donate blood, quickly. Chen Bin forced himself to stand, pulling our daughter along to get their blood tested. Humming a tune, I strolled over leisurely. As soon as I arrived, I heard Chen Bin's furious roar. You're type A blood. How can you possibly be type A blood? The daughter said innocently. I've always been type A blood. Chen Bin went crazy. His elderly mother was fighting for her life in the operating room to save their daughter. Now he had discovered that his daughter was an imposter. He went mad through the glass. You've made a mistake. You must have made a mistake. She definitely isn't type A blood. Both Chen's father and mother have type B blood. How could they possibly have a child with type A blood? 5. If the daughter was fake, then what did all their efforts these past days amount to? He froze in shock. I knew he had remembered that Chen Nan was type B blood. Chen's mother was admitted to the ICU, and Chen Bin dragged his daughter to take a paternity test again. The paternity test results would take 3 days to come out. During those 3 days, Chen Bin was like a walking corpse. He stared unblinkingly at his mother through the ICU glass. When he was hungry, he would take a few bites of steamed buns, then glare at me with bloodshot eyes. Finally, on the 3rd day, Chen Bin received the paternity test report, supports Chen Bin being the biological father of Song Wanqing. Chen Bin felt as if the sky was falling, his legs gave way, and he knelt before me. The next second, he pointed at me and started yelling, Song Zheng, you're so vicious. Every single one of these things was done on purpose. I'm going to call the police. If anything happens to my mom, I'll make you pay. Don't you dare tell my mom about this. I'm vicious. Weren't they vicious when they secretly swapped my daughter? Weren't they vicious when they were kicking and punching Chen Nan, a child? Besides, you were the ones who brought the neighbors to force me to swap the children. What does it have to do with me? Even if I don't tell your mom, plenty of others will. On the day Chen's mother was transferred to the general ward, the attending physician came for rounds. Chen's mother was already battling cancer, and after undergoing 2 major surgeries in quick succession, she had 1 foot in the grave. Chen Bin firmly remembered the doctor's instructions, even going so far as to isolate me and our daughter. The reason given was that I had taken our daughter out to look for Chen Nan. After all, our daughter had been close to Chen Nan since childhood, making it easier to find him that way. Bored out of her mind, Chen's mother struck up a conversation with the hospital cleaner. After they became familiar, the cleaner shared a piece of gossip with Chen's mother. Oh my, that little girl has type A blood. She's her mother's biological daughter. They secretly swapped her back long ago. TSK. Her father is quite the filial son, still keeping it from that shameless old thing. The cleaner curled her lip, her expression filled with utter disdain. Oh dear, this has nothing to do with me. Doctor, Mrs. Chen's eyes rolled back, and she fainted on the spot. She simply couldn't accept the fact that Chen Nan, whom she had harshly criticized for years, was actually her own biological daughter. She even heard the questioning voice of her deceased husband. That's our own flesh and blood. How could you bear it? You poisonous woman, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. No, I didn't mean to. That's my own daughter. I would cherish her dearly. How could I possibly mistreat her? Mrs. Chen jolted awake from her nightmare, frantically grabbing hold of Chen Bin's collar. Son, your father came to see me. He asked me why I abused Chen Nan. He hates me. Son, your father hates me. Chen Bin looked at his deranged mother with some heartache. Mr. Chen, the cancer cells have spread. Try to fulfill the old lady's final wishes. After hearing the doctor's words, Chen Bin felt somewhat heavy-hearted. To find Chen Nan, Chen Bin exhausted every possible means. He even took his mother to the police station to file a report, which almost became her sole hope. The police naturally contacted Chen Nan, but Chen Nan's attitude was extremely hostile. Oh, she has cancer. Heaven has eyes. Truly, heaven has eyes. Tell her I'm never coming back. Don't even bother telling me if she dies. Just consider me dead too, Mrs. Chen was desperate to speak with Chen Nan, but Chen Nan hung up the phone without a moment's hesitation. Chen Bin, supporting the emotionally distraught Mrs. Chen, asked, "Can you tell us her address?" The police officer shook his head helplessly. This was considered personal privacy. They were also quite curious about what Mrs. Chen could have possibly done to make Chen Nan so heartless. Under the curious gazes of the police, Mrs. Chen fainted once again. She must hate me, my daughter. Chen Bin, waiting outside the hospital room, dialed my number and asked, "Do you know where Chen Nan is?" I laughed triumphantly. "I know, but why should I tell you? Chen Bin, your mother deserved to die. I want her to die with her eyes wide open." Song Zheng, this is my mother's only wish, Chen Bin pleaded, so he can feel heartache too. Does he know how much pain I was in back then? How much pain my daughter was in? How much pain Chen Nan was in? It was clearly the selfishness of adults, yet it dragged two children into it. Chen Bin was angered by my attitude. Song Zheng, if I'm not having a good time, you won't have one either. 6. Even after preparing myself mentally 1,000 times over, I was still shocked by Chen Bin's words. I specifically asked for leave for my daughter and instructed her not to go out recently. My daughter was somewhat dissatisfied with this, but I remained firm in my stance. Chen Bin's target for revenge could only be me alone. My daughter must not suffer the slightest harm. During the lunch break, I called my daughter as usual, but the phone rang for a long time, and no one answered. My daughter has a severe phone dependency. She even takes her phone with her to the bathroom. I started to panic, grabbing my car keys and rushing out while making a phone call. I told myself not to panic. The apartment was newly rented, and Chen Bin had no idea where it was, but my tears betrayed the tension inside me. As I started the car, my phone showed an incoming call. Buzz. I quickly answered the phone. I added a little something extra to Wanqing's takeout. Chen Bin's laughing voice came through the phone, sticky and disgusting. Before I could react, he hung up. When I tried calling back, his phone was already off. My hands on the steering wheel were trembling. What kind of drug did he give me? Laxative, poison, or something I don't even know about? Sweat mixed with tears blurred my vision, and I almost crashed into the fence, but thankfully, I arrived at the destination without any real danger. I took out my keys to open the door. The tragic scene I had imagined didn't appear. My daughter was sleeping in bed. "Mom, what are you doing?" She looked at me with sleepy eyes. I yelled, "Why aren't you answering your phone? Do you have any idea how worried I am?" My daughter was startled and hurriedly explained that she hadn't heard it ring. She took out her phone and saw that it had already powered off. Chen Bin had made hundreds of unanswered calls to his daughter in the middle of the night, until her phone ran out of battery. This was a setup. After a long while, I felt a chill run through my entire body. This time was a false alarm. But what about next time? What if next time it's real? I truly felt like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bowstring, fearfully awaiting Chen Bin's judgment. Chen Bin did it for his mother, and I did it for my daughter. I dialed the number and said, "I'll help you get Chen Nan back." Chen's mother learned the news that Chen Nan was coming back. She suddenly became full of life, complaining that Chen Nan's old room didn't get enough sunlight, so she immediately decided to clear out her daughter's room for Chen Nan. "Chen Nan is my daughter. I can give this room to whomever I want. You have a problem with that? Keep it to yourself. You dare glare at me one more time, I'll beat you to death." Mother Chen stood with her hands on her hips, glaring fiercely at her daughter. The daughter refused to back down, blocking the doorway to prevent Mother Chen from entering. "This is my room. This whole house belongs to my mom. You have no right to touch anything." A flash of malice crossed Chen Bin's eyes. Those words seemed to remind him that he was just a freeloader. "What's yours or mine? This is our family's house." After scolding his daughter, he flashed a familiar smile, quietly stepped forward, and wrapped his arm around my waist. "Honey, did I say that right?" He rested his head on my shoulder, his hand unconsciously caressing the soft flesh at my waist. I felt as if a cold snake had coiled around me. Under my daughter's shocked gaze, I pushed Chen Bin away and slapped him across the face. "Chen Bin, A person should have self-awareness. How could he possibly think that I, after enduring all his threats, would reconcile with him as if nothing had happened? If he has selective amnesia, I'll help him remember this incident clearly. Oh my, heaven strike him down. Son, you divorce her. What kind of logic is it for a woman to hit a man anyway? Chen Nan is coming back soon. 7. Unlike Mother Chen's indignation, Chen Bin even gave me another ingratiating smile. Honey, I know you're mad at me. Go ahead, vent all you want. I won't move a muscle. He brought his face right up to mine, and I immediately felt my hair stand on end. When our daughter was born, because he resented me for being wary of him, he tacitly allowed Mother Chen to switch the two girls. Now that things are nearing their end, and Mother Chen is about to die, does the resentment in his heart still remain? I don't know, but I am certain he is a vicious wolf, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his chance to strike. After all, my premarital assets are not a small sum. My daughter was utterly baffled by Chen Bin's actions. I looked into her eyes and said, men, they never give up until they hit the wall, and daughters like me are especially good at it. Slow torture, killing with words that pierce the heart. On the day Chen Nan landed, Chen's mother dressed neatly to pick her up at the airport. She was particularly excited, eager to see Chen Nan without delay, but the imagined scene of mother and daughter embracing in tears did not happen. Chen Nan stared coldly at Chen's mother without saying a word. Mother Chen burst into tears. Nan, Mom really didn't know you were my own daughter. It was all her. She secretly swapped you behind my back. Mom just wanted you to have a good life. That's right, a good life. Mother Chen and I were pregnant at the same time, and Chen Bin had to support both of us on his own. Naturally, the pressure was immense, and the clothing and bedding for the two children were worlds apart. I could spend my own money to give my daughter the best, but Mother Chen, already in her 50s, couldn't, but she couldn't accept it, so she resorted to crying, making a scene, and threatening suicide with Chen Bin. At first, Chen Bin just wanted me to help support Mother Chen, but later he directly asked me to raise her child. Are you kidding me? I disagreed, and Chen Bin, feeling he had lost face, slapped me hard, but I still stubbornly refused to back down. It was probably from that moment that Mother Chen made up her mind, resenting me, and later swapped the two children. Chen Bin couldn't help but speak up to persuade. Nan, even if Mom has countless faults, her original intention was for your own good. She just wanted you to have a good life. That's why she swapped. After Mother Chen and Chen Bin explained at length, Chen Nan finally spoke. She looked at Mother Chen and, under her expectant gaze, said, my original intention was also to call you Mom, but look at the wounds on my hands, and look at the wounds on my face. Do you think it didn't hurt me back then? Then she pointed at the burned scar on Mother Chen's face. This is the injury you got saving Song Wanqing, isn't it? I hate you. I will never forgive you in this lifetime. Mother Chen's heart was breaking. She desperately wanted to prove her love for Chen Nan. She held out the shoe pads she had stayed up late making and the scarf she had knitted, presenting them to Chen Nan. She cried and made a scene, even kneeling on the ground to beg for Chen Nan's forgiveness. More and more onlookers gathered around. Their hearts, just like before, sided with Mother Chen, and they angrily cursed Chen Nan for being heartless. Young lady, how can you be so heartless? All parents in the world are right. Where does such deep-seated hatred come from? Exactly, your mother just made a mistake in her parenting approach, and now she realizes she was wrong. You should go back with your mother right away. It's normal for families to have arguments and conflicts. Chen Nan's eyes reddened. She was on the verge of breaking down. You're still trying to pressure me with others. I'm telling you, I don't have a mother like you. Upon hearing this, the onlookers grew rebellious and started lecturing Chen Nan again. Chen's mother and Chen Bin hurriedly tried to explain, but even more people joined in the lecturing. Chen Nan sneered coldly, grabbed my hand. This is my real mom. When you kicked me out, she took me in. Mrs. Chen was shocked. You actually call her mom? How could you call her mom? I am your mother. Didn't you want me to call her mom back then? Now that I do and live a good life, aren't you happy? I shook my head inwardly. Her words cut deeper than any knife I could wield. 8. My feelings toward Chen Nan are complicated. I hesitated for a long time about whether to lend her a helping hand. It wasn't until my daughter stood before me, hesitant to speak, that I suddenly had an epiphany. If Chen Nan's current plight is, in another sense, also her daughter's fate, if it were possible, if in another time and place, I hadn't discovered that Chen's mother had switched the children as the daughter named Chen Nan, someone could have extended a helping hand to her as well, so I sent Chen Nan abroad, hoping she would be safe and well, and remembering my kindness. She has now returned to lend me a hand. Chen's mother was left speechless by the retort, but Chen Nan pressed on, clearly explaining the whole story from beginning to end. If it weren't for my mom, I'd already be dead. How dare you ask me to forgive you? Chen Bin felt his face burning hot, and he reached out to pull Chen Nan away, but Chen Nan broke free and kicked him in the leg. Don't touch me, you even sent me to be played with by your friends before. Chen Nan realized she had spoken out of turn and immediately shut her mouth. What, Chen Nan? Say that again. I feel like I am a volcano about to erupt right now. Just one more trigger is needed to devour everything. It's nothing. Chen Nan tried to brush it off with a laugh. But I rushed forward like a madman. Everyone was also stunned by this unexpected turn of events, staring blankly as Chen Bin got beaten. Oh no. That old woman has collapsed. Chen's mother died. She was literally angered to death by Chen Nan. Before dying, Chen's mother clutched Chen Nan's hand tightly, wanting to hear her call her mom, but Chen Nan clearly harbored extreme hatred for Chen's mother, saying, I have a mother, and her name is Song Zheng. Chen's mother widened her eyes in disbelief. She never expected that even as she was dying, Chen Nan was actually so heartless. Chen Bin rushed in upon hearing the machine's alarm, then came out with red eyes. He grabbed my hand and said, Wife, you're all I have left. While Chen's mother was alive, he went to great lengths to plan for her. Now, knowing full well that Chen's mother was angered to death by Chen Nan, he remained unmoved. I didn't understand and couldn't comprehend it, but I once again realized how terrifying Chen Bin was. Chen Bin, let's get a divorce. Let's part on good terms. I spoke up. Chen Bin stepped forward and grabbed my shoulder. No, I don't agree to a divorce. It's all over. It's all over. Can't we just be good to each other? He absolutely could not lose me, or else he would have nothing left. Chen Bin did not agree to the divorce. After Chen's mother was buried, he followed me around like a shadow. When I was discussing business with a client, he angrily punched the person in the face. Song Zheng, are you divorcing me because of him? I always knew you were a fickle woman. I absolutely refuse to divorce. I'll haunt you for the rest of your life. I called the police, and after more than 10 days, he started harassing me again. After going back and forth a few times, Chen Bin became convinced that I couldn't do anything about him. He began to threaten me. Honey, let's make up. We still have Wan Qing. Hearing him mention Wan Qing, my mind exploded. How could I have forgotten the good deeds he did before? He took my hand and laughed. Honey, my friend is quite satisfied with Wan Qing. He's threatening me again. I closed my eyes. Beneath Chen Bin's shameless exterior lay a truly malicious heart. For someone like him, divorce alone is not enough. Only when he completely disappears from this world can I truly rest easy. Only then can my daughter live a safe and happy life. 9. I stopped mentioning divorce altogether. I even reconciled with Chen Bin, returning to how things were before. My daughter was utterly bewildered by this. She couldn't understand why I would return to the embrace of such a despicable man. Mom, have you forgotten what he did? He clearly has ill intentions. Chen Nan had a pretty good guess, so she coaxed and tricked her daughter into going abroad. As for this, Chen Bin didn't really mind. Chen Bin took me back to our hometown, and he was in a great mood on the way. In the evening, he volunteered to cook, saying, You don't know how to use the gas cylinder in the kitchen. I nodded obediently, as if I hadn't noticed anything suspicious. No one knows how many years I've endured sharing a bed with Chen Bin in silence. In secret, I've gritted my teeth and researched countless ways he could die. For a whole month, we lived in peace without incident, until one night, when Chen Bin came home drunk, he collapsed on the sofa, vomiting incessantly. Honey, could you go make me a bowl of noodles? You always used to make me noodles before. I nodded and got up, walking into the kitchen outside. Chen Bin waited for a long time, but the expected explosion never came. Honey, what's wrong? Silence was the only reply. With a growing sense of unease, he walked toward the kitchen. To keep up the act, he had drunk a lot of alcohol, leaving his whole body feeling somewhat numb. He leaned against the wall to rest for a moment. The light switch happened to be on that very wall. Bang! That was the sound of a gas canister leaking and exploding. Chen Bin was rushed into the emergency room. His body was charred black, yet he couldn't stop screaming uncontrollably. Ah, kill me, kill me. A few days later, the police began to carefully inquire about the details of the incident. I honestly confessed everything and finally asked with tears in my eyes, what on earth happened? The police looked sympathetic and explained that the accident was set up by Chinbin to kill me. It was just that I happened to have a stomachache and went to the bathroom, so he ended up suffering the consequences of his own actions. I lowered my head, covered my mouth, and cried bitterly. I looked exactly like a wife who had been betrayed by her husband and was utterly heartbroken. Chen Bin suffered burns covering 90% of his body, which would require a substantial amount of medical expenses. Save me, save. I looked coldly at Chen Bin in the ICU and signed without hesitation. Having watched too many movies and TV shows, I've come to understand one truth. Mercy toward an enemy is cruelty to oneself. I carefully selected a nursing home and dumped Chen Bin inside. At this moment, his entire body was wrapped in bandages, and the only visible part, his eyes, even lacked eyelids. He stared at me intently, tears streaming down and soaking the bandages. I said to him, Chen Bin, we're even now. Karma has its own course, retribution follows its own law. I turned and walked away, hearing his immediate curses. What are you crying for? Do I have to change these bandages for you too, you useless thing? Wah wah wah. Chen Bin died. In the 4th year I was abroad. At the time, I was accompanying my daughter during her childbirth. When I got the call from the nursing home, I said impatiently, he's dead, so he's dead, you deal with it. Looking at my little granddaughter, I couldn't help but break into a doting, grandmotherly smile. I took her little hand, just as I had taken my daughter's little hand many years ago. MS. Song, regarding Mr. Chen's ashes. What would you like us to? Oh, just pour it into the stinky ditch. I stood up and opened the door. Auntie, I'm here to see my sister. Chen Nan, holding a gift, quickly gave me a kiss. I touched my cheek. Oh dear. This child really has no sense of shame. Story 2, The Clan Decree. Whoever achieves greater synergy with their beastkin and trains a more powerful companion shall inherit the patriarch seat. In our past life, my sister obsessed over becoming matriarch and hastily claimed the divine phoenix as her beastkin, but the phoenix harbored a latent affliction. It couldn't even assume human form before succumbing to illness within years. Meanwhile, I chose a near-death white wolf that, once healed, became a ferocious champion, defeating every beastkin in the clan. Father outright declared me the next head of the household. Consumed by jealousy, my sister secretly seduced my beastman, and together they plotted to kill me and seize the family leadership. Turns out my beastman Fenrir had fallen for my sister at first sight, being chosen by me instead. He'd resented me ever since for keeping them apart. When I accidentally uncovered their scheme, they decided to go all the way and kill me outright. Knowing escape was hopeless and refusing to let that wretched pair succeed, I channeled all my spiritual energy to detonate it, taking them down with me. When I opened my eyes again, my sister and I had returned to the day of the beastkin selection. This time she begged our father, I don't want the phoenix, father, please let me have the white wolf as my beastkin. I immediately rushed forward and embraced the phoenix. In this lifetime, I'll claim the family headship, and both your lives, father. I choose this white wolf, declared Sister Seraphina. The entire gathering turned in stunned silence. Father froze in disbelief. My sister and I share no blood mother. Her mother's marriage to father was purely political. No love ever grew between them. Seraphina's mother died during childbirth, and soon after, my father married my mother, bringing me into the world. Seraphina always believed my mother seduced our father and tore her family apart. She's resented me since childhood, constantly trying to one-up me. Now, when choosing both her future mate and the clan's successor, she shockingly rejected the legendary phoenix in favor of a mortally wounded white wolf, a choice that visibly stunned our father. Seraphina, are you absolutely certain this decision is irreversible? Father pressed again. My sister clung to father's arm, pleading, Father, look how pitiful this white wolf is. If we don't save him now, he'll die. How could I bear that? Let younger sister have the phoenix. I only want the white wolf. Father turned to me. What about you, Ember? Who would you choose? I looked at the listless phoenix and said, I'd like to choose this phoenix. Father seemed quite pleased with my choice, smiling and nodding in approval. My sister and I publicly bonded with our chosen beastkin mates. Our eyes met as she flashed me a challenging grin. This lifetime, the white wolf and clan leadership will be mine. In that instant, I knew she'd been reborn too. Since ancient times, monstrous beasts roamed the earth while humanity struggled against them. Only when beastkin emerged 5 centuries ago did mankind finally gain the upper hand in this age-old conflict. Legend says beast folk are offspring of humans mating with savage beasts. Without forming a pact with humans, They gradually lose their sanity and degenerate into feral monsters, though beast folk aid humans against wild beasts. Their mixed bloodline and unstable nature have made them despised since birth, treated as little more than slaves. My family belongs to the Beastmaster lineage, where every child selects their personal beastfolk companion upon coming of age. Our clan's law decrees, the heir shall be whoever achieves deepest synergy with their beastfolk and trains the mightiest warrior. In our past life, Seraphina was hell-bent on surpassing me to become clan leader, hastily choosing the phoenix Thor while smugly believing victory was assured, yet Thor remained chronically ill, unable to even assume human form, and withered away within years. Meanwhile, I selected a battered white wolf on death's door. After nursing it back, it became a ferocious beast that crushed every other war creature in the clan. Father immediately declared me the rightful heir. My sister was consumed by jealousy and secretly seduced my orc, plotting with him to murder me and seize the family's leadership. It turns out my orc Fenrir had fallen for my sister at first sight, but fatefully ended up being chosen by me instead. He always believed that if not for me, his kind-hearted sister would never have abandoned him. Convinced, I tore them apart, nursing this grudge against me. When I accidentally uncovered their conspiracy, they decided to go all the way and kill me outright. Knowing escape was hopeless and refusing to let that wretched pair succeed, I channeled all my spiritual energy into a final explosion, taking them down with me. When my eyes opened again, Seraphina and I had been reborn together. In this life, Seraphina chose the beast man Fenrir without hesitation. She sneered at me. This time, I'll be the one leading the family, while you and that worthless Thor become the laughingstock of the realm. Both Thor and Fenrir require medical attention. Since the selection's been made, Father instructed us to return early with the beast folk. On our way back, Seraphina couldn't resist sneering at me. Little sister, how could you settle for beast folk so carelessly? Aren't you afraid you'll regret it? Though this phoenix is a divine beast, judging by its sickly appearance, I doubt it'll survive much longer. If that happens, dear sister, you'll lose eligibility for the family head position, and to become a widow so young, what a dreadful predicament that would be. Seraphina was recounting her past life with Thor, yet now she's using it to mock me. Sister, save your concern for your white wolf. Thor's condition was the real priority now. I didn't bother arguing with Seraphina and hurried off to find a healer. Every beastkin present today had been meticulously chosen by Father. Each bloodline carried unique strengths, and their injuries were either minor or treatable. Only Thor was different. As an ancient phoenix, his value was beyond measure. Even in poor health, no one dared remove him from the list. In my past life, I chose Fenrir because he was gravely injured and on the brink of death. Had I not taken him in, he might have perished. I reasoned that since all the orcs present had been vetted by my father, none could be truly terrible. Moved by compassion in that moment, I brought him home. Little did I know Fenrir had instantly taken a liking to Seraphina, convinced that even if I hadn't chosen him, her kindness wouldn't have let him die, and thus blamed me for tearing them apart. 02. Every full moon, Fenrir's orc blood would trigger uncontrollable frenzy under the influence of his wolf lineage, driving him to rampage and even self-harm. Even if tied up, his frenzied thrashing would only injure himself. Knowing he was my orc comrade in arms, I couldn't bear to see him self-harm, so I'd always step forward to calm him. Whether from boiling beast blood or some grudge against me, he'd always end up wounding me instead. This lifetime, freed from my interference, I'll finally see how those two truly fare. The physicians were at their wits' end regarding Thor's condition. After all, the phoenix is an ancient divine bird, rare in number and unseen for ages. Leaving few records to consult, the physician suggested the local environment might be unsuitable for the phoenix, or there could be other causes. Returning it to its ancestral lands might offer a cure. Though remained listless, utterly indifferent to the physician's words. Seraphina, who arrived fashionably late with Fenrir, feigned concern and said, "Oh dear sister, what a predicament. Don't tell me you've managed to kill him. This is an ancient divine bird we're talking about. If you can't even keep such an auspicious creature alive, how dare you call yourself a beast tamer?" The crowd around us began whispering and casting judgmental glances my way after hearing Seraphina's remarks. How touching that sister cares so much for her own beastkin. I shot back without hesitation, yet you've got plenty of time to stand here making snide remarks instead of calling a healer for him. Seraphina flushed with anger, but quickly composed herself with a new excuse. "I just didn't want to rush you, dear sister. In case you hadn't finished looking, I stepped aside with Thor. After you, sister, I left briskly with Thor. After all, I already knew Fenrir's situation from my past life. Though beastmen held low status, Fenrir remained defiant. The guards despised his troublemaking and beat him frequently, yet he never learned his lesson. If not for that trace of alpha wolf bloodline making him valuable, Fenrir would have been put down long ago, but his rebellious temperament makes him hard to sell, too aggressive and likely to turn on his master. Coincidentally, our beast-taming clan was selecting war beasts, so Fenrir got eagerly pawned off on us. If he fails this selection and loses his worth, he probably won't last long back home. In my past life, knowing these things, I mistook his nature for untamed ferocity and often yielded to him. I devoted myself to healing him, even exhausting my savings to procure the celestial lotus, awakening his Wolf King bloodline and securing his overwhelming victory in the subsequent Beastman duel. Seraphina, on the other hand, abandoned all care when she heard Thor's condition was incurable, obsessively training him to battle savage beasts instead. At first Thor resisted, perching beyond reach in the treetops until each confrontation fizzled out. Seraphina certainly wouldn't welcome this turn of events, so she deliberately confined the duels to cramped indoor spaces where Thor couldn't utilize his strengths, forcing him into passive defense against opponents' frenzied attacks. Initially Thor could still win fights, though not without injuries, and his condition gradually deteriorated. The physicians could treat his wounds, but not cure his ailment. When Seraphina finally grew anxious, instead of seeking medical help for Thor, she pushed him into more duels, determined to make him defeat all challengers and claim the family leadership before his death. Seraphina didn't get her wish after all. Thor died silently on a rainy night, leaving no corpse behind, just a handful of ashes that went unnoticed until the next day. Her negligent care of the phoenix, even letting the auspicious creature die, ruined Seraphina's reputation within the family, and her father was deeply disappointed in her. No amount of powerful beast men could salvage her standing now, so she turned her attention to Fenrir instead. Not only did they strip me of my orcs and disqualify me from clan leadership, but Fenrir remains undefeated in battle. No dissent could possibly stand against him. To think I met my end alongside those two in my past life. What wretched luck. 3. The phoenix perches only on parasol trees, eats nothing but bamboo fruit, and drinks solely from sweet springs. From Huizi as Prime Minister of Liang, Zhuangzi, Autumn Floods. In my previous life, I came across this very passage while searching the archives for methods to calm Fenrir's lunar cycle rampages, but by then Thor was already dead. And even if he weren't, Seraphina wouldn't have followed the method I discovered. The physician said Thor couldn't adapt to the local climate. In her previous life, Seraphina merely fed Thor like a common orc, so he'd always been in poor health. I wanted to try whether Thor would improve if I followed the book's instructions on feeding and resting him. I took Thor deep into the forest behind the mountain. This entire area is our family's territory. The forest houses some fierce beasts, perfect for training our beast masters. With its phoenix trees, bamboo groves, and crystal springs, this place suits Thor perfectly. True enough, after just a few days here, Thor's condition improved remarkably. I practiced spiritual energy circulation daily while scouring ancient texts for a cure for Thor. True to his phoenix nature, Thor perched on parasol trees, drank from clear springs, and fed on bamboo rice, leaving us in peaceful coexistence. Then one day, Thor alighted on the parasol tree beside me and spoke for the first time. Why? What? I was momentarily caught off guard. Why go through such lengths to save me? Why stay with me in these woods? This must be hard for humans, Thor asked. I shook my head, then reconsidered and nodded. Living in tents instead of houses, hunting every meal ourselves, everything from clothing to transportation is inconvenient. It's truly a hard life. Thor stood atop the phoenix tree, looking down at me with an aura as sacred and untouchable as a divine bird. I flashed him a radiant smile. But what can I do? I've already chosen you as my beastman companion, since we're bound for life. Of course I'll strive to treat you well. Thor seemed moved by my words. A glimmer passed through his golden eyes, his majestic bearing softening into something warmer. I felt the bond mark on my wrist gradually lengthening, a telltale sign of his crumbling defenses. But this arrangement really isn't practical. I pressed on. When we have our own bamboo grove, crystal spring, and phoenix trees someday, I'll build us a cozy home there. Then I can stay by your side forever. How does that sound? Thor remained silent for a long moment before murmuring his reply, all right. In their past life, Seraphina and Thor's compatibility never exceeded 30%, and it kept declining afterward, subjecting her to relentless ridicule. I looked down at the compatibility line on my hand. It had already reached 90% in just those few exchanged words, so this was Thor's true nature. Once he gave his heart, he held nothing back. After that, we got along harmoniously. And the compatibility line kept growing longer. Thor wasn't much of a talker, but he'd greet me whenever he went out, sometimes bringing back small gifts like game or wildflowers. He truly took my words to heart that day and began treating me as his partner in earnest. With the comfortable living environment and the healing artifacts I'd collected, Thor's health steadily improved. Then one day, he appeared before me in human form, leaving me speechless with astonishment. Thor possessed striking features with delicate symmetry, his golden eyes shimmering like sunlight trapped in ice, an ethereal purity reminiscent of the world's most exquisite porcelain, so flawless it seemed sacrilege to touch. For a being of such breathtaking beauty to have been kept by Seraphina in his primal form all this time was nothing short of criminal waste. Now that Thor could assume human form, it was high time to have the physician reassess his recovery progress. For mid-journey, we unexpectedly crossed paths with Seraphina, who stood encircled by fawning attendants amid a chorus of sycophantic praises. No surprise at Seraphina, she's always been the best among us since childhood, an 86% compatibility rate with Fenrir. That's got to be the highest in history. Just a few days into the bonding ritual and already such remarkable synergy. You're destined to become legendary like our ancient ancestors. Speaking of which, where's Ember hiding with her phoenix? Could their compatibility be so disastrously low that she's too ashamed to show up? Pfft. With that insufferable personality of hers, even beast folk would flee at the sight of Ember. Bet that phoenix already ditched her. Just then, Thor and I came face to face with them. Far from showing shame, they only grew more brazen, taunting. Well, if it isn't Ember finally showing her face, we were beginning to think you'd fled after killing the phoenix out of negligence. Some noticed Thor beside me, though they'd never seen him before. His noble and divine bearing bore an uncanny resemblance to the phoenix, sparking whispers of speculation. Seraphina's eyes flickered with poorly concealed alarm as she forced a greeting. Oh, little sister, what a surprise. Where have you been hiding with your beastkin all this time? The whole clan's been wondering about your absence. And who might this gentleman be? This is my orc companion, the Phoenix Thor, I announced confidently to the crowd. Seraphina's ominous premonition came true. Digging her nails into her palms, she forced a smile. So this is what Thor looks like, quite unexpected. In our past life, Thor's chronic illness prevented his transformation, making her the laughingstock of everyone. After just a short separation, Thor has not only achieved his transformation under my care, but emerged in such a strikingly handsome form. Compared to Thor, even the broad-shouldered Fenrir by her side seemed too rugged. Seraphina had always been competitive with me, and now she looked utterly defeated, probably seething with rage. Fenrir was glaring at us too soon. She thought she'd found a comeback. Oh, by the way, sister, she said sweetly, what's your compatibility rate with Thor? The bonding ceremony was so rushed, I never got to see it. In their past life, no matter how Seraphina flattered or threatened him, Thor remained unmoved. Their compatibility never exceeded 30%. She was so certain I'd be the same, deliberately pointing it out to embarrass me. Fenrir also grew smug, as if convinced my compatibility with Thor couldn't possibly surpass theirs. Since Seraphina gave me this opportunity, I naturally extended my wrist before her eyes, letting everyone clearly see my compatibility line. Heavens, 96%. This level of compatibility hasn't been seen in 500 years. How could this be? Ember, have you lost your mind? You'd even dare to fake the bond line, whether amused by toying with them or simply having my back. The bond line on my wrist visibly advanced further in response to their challenge. Faced with such irrefutable proof, the group finally fell silent. Seraphina stormed off in livid fury, dignity abandoned as she flung her sleeves aside. Fenrir followed close behind, shooting us a venomous glare before the rest scurried away in haste. Thor and I locked eyes, then burst into hearty laughter. Still laughing, I clapped Thor on the shoulder. You absolute legend. Did you see Seraphina's face? Ha ha ha, I'm so thrilled I could eat 3 extra bowls tonight. Thor simply smiled at me. You look adorable when you're scheming mischief. My laughter died abruptly, and I even choked on my own spit. Thor quickly patted my back to help me catch my breath. I waved it off with flushed cheeks despite claiming to be fine. Thor's such a sweetheart. By the time we finished with the healer, dusk had fallen. we decided against returning to Mirkwood today. Shortly after Thor and I returned to the courtyard, commotion erupted outside. When I opened the door, Seraphina and Fenrir stood there fuming with the same group we'd encountered earlier, their faces burning with indignation, leaning against the doorframe with crossed arms. I gave them a sardonic smile. Well, well, what's all this? Midnight social hour at my doorstep. Don't play dumb, Ember. The compass clearly shows Seraphina's lost primordial beast remains are right in your courtyard. Damn right, we followed Seraphina's trail straight here. You can't worm your way out of this. I turned to Seraphina, whose eyes betrayed undisguised malice and smugness as she feigned concern. Perhaps the compass merely points toward Ember's courtyard. Let's not accuse her before we found the missing item. Dear sister, to clear your name, why not let everyone have a look inside? Fenrir glared at me viciously. Don't worry, Seraphina, whoever stole from you, I'll make sure they pay for it. The others chimed in. She robbed you, yet you still defend her. You're too kind-hearted. Seraphina, listen to us. Some people just aren't worth your kindness. With that, they barged into my courtyard one after another, ransacking everything in sight. Moments later, someone came charging out with a box. Found it. It was hidden under her bed. Aha, I knew it. It was her all along. How dare our noble beast-taming family produce such a thieving scoundrel? We must report this to the family head today and see her punished. Soon a crowd gathered around me, hurling accusations in a chaotic uproar. Fenrir even raised his fist against me. Just then, Thor stepped in front of me. With an icy glare and the divine aura of a sacred avian surrounding him, he gradually cooled the hot-headed mob. With reddened eyes and a victimized air, Seraphina cried, Thor, I know you're Ember's beastkin, but she stole my mother's heirloom. The evidence is irrefutable. Are you trying to shield her? She's been with me all day. There's no way Ember could have done this, Thor declared in my defense, smiling. I took his hand and addressed the skeptical crowd. Very well, let's settle this before the family head. The group finally regained their composure and rallied behind Seraphina. Fine by us, with witnesses and evidence in hand. Let's see how you wriggle out of this. Exactly, we saw them find those things in your room with our own eyes. How could they be fake? Seraphina initially felt a twinge of guilt, but emboldened by the crowd's cheers, she regained her composure and maintained her pitiful victim act. With feigned magnanimity, she said, Little sister, I had no idea you took this. But these remains of the ancient beast are my mother's heirloom. I only wanted an apology from you. If this matter reaches father, you'll inevitably face punishment. But since you insist, so be it. She dabbed at her eyes as she spoke, putting on a heartbroken display. Pretty words indeed. Yet she made such a spectacle by bringing all these people to search my courtyard. With this commotion, word will surely reach father's ears sooner or later. If we don't settle this today, that baseless accusation will stick to me forever. Do you really think I'd let her have her way? In the great hall, father and the clan elders sat at the head table, observing our noisy squabble with knowing eyes. Ember, what do you have to say? Father gave me the first chance to explain. I turned to Seraphina with a smile. Dear sister, might I ask when exactly these ancient beast remains went missing? 5. Fenrir immediately shielded Seraphina as if I'd bullied her, glaring at me with fierce protectiveness. Seraphina swallowed nervously before answering. Around 8 p.m., I wanted to look at the keepsake my mother left me but couldn't find it anywhere. I got so anxious that I asked everyone to help search. Exactly. Seraphina looked like she was about to cry from distress, so of course I helped her look. Yeah, same here. Several voices chimed in agreement. I pressed further. When was the last time you saw it? Seraphina clenched her teeth and replied, right before leaving this morning. If she extended the time frame, others might claim the relic was stolen and planted in my room during my absence. To pin this on me, the ancient remains must have disappeared today. Not everyone present blindly accepted Seraphina's account. The patriarch at the head of the table furrowed his brow, already sensing something amiss. But there are always a few idiots. Answer properly when you're asked. Why keep bringing Seraphina into this? You're the one being interrogated. It was Jared, my father's younger brother, still bitter after losing the family leadership battle years ago. In this situation, either Seraphina or I must be at fault, and he'll surely seize the opportunity to stir trouble. Ha, that fool Seraphina actually thinks she's fit to lead the family. I replied respectfully. I returned from the deep woods today. The timekeeper should have records of my arrival. After that, I took Thor to see the healer. We were together the entire time. with no opportunity to steal from Seraphina. Besides, what possible use could I have for the remains of an ancient dire beast? He's your beastkin. Of course he'd speak in your defense. I turned toward the sound and saw a rat-like beast man. When humans and beast men interbreed, their offspring could be either human or beast man. Unfortunately, he was born a beast man, and a rat type at that, with no notable bloodline advantages. He was largely shunned by the clan until becoming good friends with the kind-hearted Seraphina, which somewhat improved his standing. Today, he's been the most vocal troublemaker, eagerly pinning all the blame on me at his accusation. The others chimed in, exactly, he's obviously taking your side. We saw it just now. Seraphina stepped forward with tearful eyes and said, I know Thor suffers from a hidden ailment, and you've exhausted every means to cure him, but these ancient beast remains are my mother's heirloom. Had you simply asked, dear sister, how could I refuse you, though it pains me to part with it, you're my own flesh and blood, and this is to save a life, but stealing, this you should never have done, you've shamed the honor of our centuries-old beastmaster lineage. Exactly, Thor is your orc, his testimony doesn't count. Jared spoke again, glaring at me with sinister intent. Got any other evidence? Otherwise, you won't shake the charge of stealing ancient beast remains. I sighed helplessly. Does anyone here know the nature of phoenixes? Phoenixes rest only on parasol trees, eat only bamboo fruit, and drink only sweet spring water. Their sustenance comes solely from the purest elements of nature. Ancient beast remains are far too malevolent. They might benefit others, but for a phoenix, they're utterly worthless. Why would I take such a huge risk to steal something worthless? What's in it for me? Seraphina paled upon hearing this. She'd been completely unaware. With things having escalated this far, she'd be in real trouble if she couldn't pin the blame on me. A loud bang erupted nearby as Jared, perhaps catching the sarcasm in my words, slammed the table in rage. You insolent ember, we gave you a chance to explain yourself, yet you keep beating around the bush without proving your innocence, and now you dare show off before your elders. What, do you think you're the only one in the whole damn world who understands Phoenix behavior? Enough with this farce. She's clearly the thief. Guards, bring out the family discipline. Jared, father glared at him disapprovingly. What's this? Does the family head intend to openly shield his own daughter? Jared shot back defiantly. The tension in the room became palpable. I can prove Ember's innocence, Thor declared. Jared shot him a disdainful look. You, defending her, don't make me laugh. Without a word, Thor let out a phoenix's cry, clear as jade shattering, resonating far and wide. Soon, countless birds came flocking at its call, a phoenix summoning the birds. This is legendary, someone gasped. Seraphina's face flushed crimson then paled dramatically. A spectacle to behold. In her past life, Thor had never revealed such divine prowess. Had she known, she'd never have forsaken him for Fenrir. The regret now gnawed at her like bitter poison. Fenrir seemed to sense Seraphina's turmoil, his eyes burning with venomous jealousy as they locked onto us. Thor wove a spell gesture, pointing at the box in Seraphina's hands. Did any of you witness this box today? Describe what occurred. A flock of chirping birds suddenly spoke in human tongues. Don't know. Didn't see anything. What's that? Feels really dangerous. Amidst the chaotic chatter, one bird flew closer, examined the patterns on the box carefully, and said, I saw it. Today a rat carried this big box into a courtyard. The box was so much bigger than it, sneaking around trying to avoid people. I found it amusing and watched for quite a while. 6. By the way, that rat went straight into your lordship's courtyard. When it came out, the box was gone. You're lying. A shrill voice rang out. It was that rat-like beast man. The crowd turned to look at him, recalling what the little bird had said earlier, and couldn't help but grow suspicious. Sensing the crowd's disapproving gazes, he panicked and backtracked. What I meant was, this magic was cast by the phoenix. Since he's Ember's beast man, who's to say he didn't use spells to distort testimony or command these birds to bear false witness? After all, they obey the phoenix unquestioningly. Exactly, such testimony is utterly unreliable. Jared snarled, fixing us with a venomous glare as his lips curled into a cold smirk. By this point, everyone could see Jared was simply making trouble without cause, but as an elder, not even my father could prevent him from intervening in tribal disputes. Just then, a melodious voice came from behind. What it says is true. The crowd turned to see a magnificent azure bird emerge from the flock, gradually transforming into human form. Grandmother Azure. The people greeted her with respectful bows. She was one of the tribe's guardian beast folk, the azure bird. Representing hope and good fortune, her exact age remains unknown, but she had already been safeguarding our family with her abilities for many years. By the time I was born, Elder Qingmiao approached the gathering slowly and said, "I've heard your quarrel. The phoenix's magic was genuine, and that sparrow spoke the truth. I can vouch for this." As a revered elder, Qingmiao had no reason to lie for us juniors. Even Elder Jared, who had been so vocal earlier, could only bow in respectful agreement. Now, at last, my name has been cleared. Father's stern gaze fell upon the rat-like beast man. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" 7. He wanted to argue, but faced with irrefutable evidence, he could only glance helplessly at Serafina. Serafina's heart tightened as she feigned hurt. "After all I've done for you, why would you do this? Remember that winter when the blizzard hit, you and your sister nearly froze to death. It was only because I gave you blankets and clothes that you survived. That bitter cold. If you truly value family bonds and cherish your sister so much, why would you steal my mother's heirloom?" He understood Serafina was threatening his sister. Gritting his teeth, he took full responsibility. "I know nothing about any ancient beast's remains. I just wanted to steal valuables for money." With that, he dropped to his knees before his father with a thud. "I was wrong, family head. Please spare me this once. It's my first offense." His father asked again, "Did you do this entirely on your own?" He kept kowtowing desperately, pleading, "I was wrong, patriarch. Please spare me. Since you've confessed, you're hereby banished from the family." His father declared solemnly. He'd expected mere household discipline, never anticipated such severe punishment. Out there, orcs live like slaves. He turned pale with terror and collapsed to the ground. Only when someone dragged him out did he snap out of it, screaming for help. "Miss Serafina, please save me. I did this all for you, Miss Serafina. I beg you, save me." Suspicion filled the eyes of the crowd as they turned towards Serafina, her forced smile finally crumbling at the edges. "Ember, you've endured unfair treatment today," Father continued. "The phoenix is a divine creature, and nurturing it will greatly benefit our family. For your merit in saving it, I grant you the family estate with bamboo groves, phoenix trees, and the crystal spring. May you continue striving for our household's glory, Elder Brother." Elder Jared protested indignantly. "You object." Father shot him a sidelong glance. Jared glanced at Granny Qingmiao, who remained present, and said reluctantly, "No objections." I cheerfully pulled Thor along as we bowed. "Thank you, my lord." In the secluded tea room, I sat facing a suspiciously hooded figure. 5 million, I said. "You can't guarantee the authenticity of that snow lotus either." "I'm willing to sign a contract, no matter if it's genuine or fake. I won't hold you accountable. Full cash payment up front, transaction concluded, and we go our separate ways. Deal." The cloaked figure across the table seemed tempted. Just as they were about to speak, the teahouse door swung open from outside. 8 million. Serafina flashed me a triumphant grin as she glided in with Fenrir in tow. The stranger across the table startled, attempting to bolt, only to be pinned down by Fenrir. Serafina settled into a nearby chair, adopting her usual demure facade. "Relax," she cooed. "We're just here to make a purchase. No need for alarm." Fenrir followed her command, releasing the man and taking position behind her. The man looked between me and Serafina with uneasy hesitation, swallowing hard before asking, "Did you just say 8 million, correct?" Serafina replied, "Same terms as hers. Payment in full, contract signed, no further trouble. Do we have a deal?" I could see his hesitation wavering, so through gritted teeth I raised the bid. 9 million. 12 million, Serafina countered with a smug grin. Clearly having come prepared for this moment, the man glanced between us, confirmed I wouldn't raise the bid, then sealed the deal without hesitation. I watched helplessly as they signed the contract, the merchant swapping his dubious snow lotus for 2 suitcases crammed with cash before scurrying away. Serafina simply sat across from me, delicately examining her prized snow lotus. Heard Thor needed the celestial lotus too. "What a shame, I got it first," Serafina gloated. "This lotus blooms once a century. You're risking 12 million without even verifying its authenticity." I glared icily. "I wouldn't know, but you do, don't you?" Serafina leaned against Fenrir smugly. "Last life, you bankrupted yourself getting him that lotus to awaken his Wolf King bloodline, right, Fenrir?" Fenrir pulled her close with tender devotion. Indeed, I looked at Fenrir. He was truly different now. Having shed the defensive bristles from when he first emerged from the cage, seems his past life memories have returned. Who'd have thought his first act after regaining those memories would be helping Seraphina stab me in the back? I really raised a viper in my bosom in that past life. Seraphina flashed me a taunting smile. The clan leadership is as good as mine, with both Celestial Lotus and Fenrir on my side. What exactly do you have to challenge me, Ember? I watched her gloating expression coldly before offering a sardonic smile. Then I wished dear sister all the success she deserves. With that, I slammed the door behind me, leaving them roaring with laughter in my wake. Reaching the ground floor, I turned into a secluded alley where the cloaked figure from the tea house stood waiting. He handed me a suitcase. Consider our account settled in full. I accepted it with a smile. Pleasure doing business. The other person nodded at me before turning to leave. Those idiots Seraphina and Fenrir are probably still gloating, unaware this was all part of my trap for them. Does she really think framing me for theft last time is the end of this? Dream on. I haven't even settled last life's debts. How could I let her owe me more? Who'd have thought Seraphina would show zero improvement even with a second chance? At least Fenrir remembers too. Now he won't suffer unjustly for what's coming. In my past life, I spent my entire savings on not one, but two celestial lotuses for Fenrir. One was genuine, the other a counterfeit. Back then, I wasn't certain about awakening his Wolf King bloodline. I merely told him it was medicinal tonic. Fenrir remains unaware of the specifics. The real one's been in my possession for ages. As for the fake, I conspired with the merchant, helped inflate its price and eliminate loose ends, with half the profits as my cut. Even the merchant couldn't distinguish between the two celestial mountain lotuses. He probably assumed both were fakes. The real one only cost me 3 million. For the fake, he made double the profit. It was a win-win deal. I cleaned house. That night, after depositing the money at the bank, I returned to the ancestral lands. Thor was waiting for me by the bamboo grove. At the sight of him, all past grievances seemed to melt away as I threw myself into his arms. He approached with gentle warmth. You look thrilled. What wonderful news have you brought? Yes, I nodded eagerly, producing the celestial lotus from my robe. Tada, the cure for your illness. I found it. 8. Taking his hand, I placed the lotus in his palm. Here, this is for you. Thor gazed at the celestial lotus in his hand, then at me with moist eyes before impulsively kissing my cheek. Thank you, he murmured. I gently stroked his back. No need for thanks, just focus on getting better. As a fledgling, Thor had ingested something toxic that gradually drained the iridescence from his plumage and extinguished his innate fire-breathing ability. The Phoenix clan, fearing either contagion or divine punishment, banished Thor from their midst. The outside world offered few sanctuaries for a phoenix, and divine birds like Thor were constantly hunted. After struggling to survive for so long, he was ultimately captured. By then, Thor had nearly given up on life, until fate brought us together. Thor told me I'd healed both his body and soul. After consuming the celestial lotus, Thor's health improved dramatically, and he regained his flame-breathing abilities. We've been training with the savage beasts of the dense forest to prepare for the upcoming clan tournament, and our teamwork keeps improving. Meanwhile, Seraphina hasn't been idle either. Rumor has it she's been making quite a stir. After consuming the celestial lotus, Fenrir failed to awaken his Wolf King lineage, leaving both of them baffled. With the clan tournament approaching, a frantic Seraphina began relentlessly throwing Fenrir into beast battles, just like she'd done with Thor in their past life. Without awakening his Wolf King bloodline, Fenrir remained relatively weak, often getting overpowered in battles and accumulating wounds. Seraphina showed no mercy, instead berating him loudly. Useless, you good-for-nothing wretch. Fenrir had endured enough of Seraphina's abuse and snapped back. You dare say that? You always cower in safety during battles. What right do you have to criticize me? In the entire Beast Tamer clan, who else acts like you? Even Ember outshines you. Every other master treats their beastkin better than you ever have. The two got into a heated brawl, making complete fools of themselves. When her father found out, he summoned Seraphina and gave her a stern lecture. A beast master's role isn't to train their beastkin into mindless killing machines, but to fight alongside them as equals. That's how true power is unleashed. Seraphina always just hurls Fenrir into battle while staying safely behind, which completely defeats the purpose of being a beast master. Seraphina now sees Fenrir as useless, while Fenrir resents her for mistreating him. Their compatibility has plummeted to a mere 40%. To make matters worse, Seraphina publicly declared that she'd willingly part with the ancient beast's remains if it meant saving lives. no matter how precious they were to her. This led to a constant stream of people approaching Seraphina with sob stories and medical emergencies, all demanding the ancient beast's relics. Knowing she couldn't protect the remains forever, Seraphina decided to give them to Fenrir instead. Awakening his Wolf King bloodline might just secure her the family leadership. After devouring the remains of ancient beasts, Fenrir's power surged dramatically, awakening his ancestral Wolf King bloodline as desired, but this came with severe side effects. His werewolf blood could barely suppress the beast's savagery anymore, leaving him in perpetual agony as the two forces tore at his very being. A torment worse than any torture. The beast blood frenzy that once only erupted during full moons now struck unpredictably, compounding his suffering every time Fenrir battled those savage beasts. The scene turned into a bloodbath so gruesome that many refused to train with Seraphina afterward. By the time we met again, the clan tournament had already begun. With bloodshot eyes, Fenrir roared at me, "Ember, why didn't you choose me? Why?" Thor stepped protectively in front of me. Fenrir was clearly not himself. I patted Thor's shoulder reassuringly before turning a cold gaze toward Fenrir. "Didn't you adore Seraphina? Now that you've gotten what you wanted, why come looking for me?" Hope flashed in Fenrir's eyes as he lunged forward desperately, only to be blocked by Thor. "It's not like that, Ember," he pleaded frantically. "I was wrong. I swear I've learned my lesson. Give me another chance, please. I'll never betray you again. I'll even help you kill Seraphina. Choose me, just this once." The crowd gasped in shock. Seraphina, who'd finally arrived, roared in fury, "Fenrir, you dare betray me?" Fenrir's body trembled in fear, yet his desperate gaze remained fixed on me. "What are you thinking?" I chuckled, crushing his hope. "Why would I ever take back trash that threw itself away? Oh Fenrir, you've got so many wonderful days ahead. Do try to stay alive." Fenrir's heart turned to ashes in an instant. All traces of pitiful pleading vanished from his face, replaced by vicious hatred. "You'll regret this. I swear I'll kill you all." After the crowd dispersed, Thor looked at me with concern. "Do you have some history with them?" "Yeah, bad blood, so you'd better protect me well." "Thor," I said, gazing at him with complete trust. Thor seemed to want to ask more, but swallowed his questions, simply vowing with sincerity, "I'll keep you safe, always." The clan tournament began, with just a single summoning of 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. Thor could call forth countless birds to swarm our opponents, securing us an effortless victory. Fenrir's battles were always drenched in blood, leaving opponents severely wounded or dead. Even when warned, he refused to curb his bloodlust. Gradually, many challengers began surrendering outright when facing their team. No sane person would willingly walk to their doom, and so the day of the final showdown arrived. The battleground wasn't outdoors this time, but confined within narrow walls. I knew Seraphina must have pulled some strings to move the finals indoors, effectively neutralizing Thor's aerial advantage and his phoenix summoning technique. Seraphina and Fenrir made their entrance, with Fenrir radiating uncontrollable bloodlust. He was teetering on the brink of becoming a full-fledged beast. The recent full moon had broken Seraphina's usual chains. They could no longer restrain Fenrir's fury. That night Fenrir broke free, his beastly rage unleashed as he wounded many clansmen and nearly killed someone. Such a were-beast on the verge of losing control is extremely dangerous. By protocol, they must be restrained. If they degenerate into feral beasts, execute them on sight. 09, yet Elder Jared insisted he compete in the clan tournament, arguing it'd be unfair to Seraphina otherwise. The final decision was to let Fenrir complete the championship match before confinement. Fenrir's fate is sealed, and that's only going to make him more ferocious. Thor and I exchanged a grave look. Seraphina kept her distance, hiding in a safe corner. During the full moon, Fenrir wounded her too. The nightmare from that night still feels fresh, and Seraphina remains terrified of Fenrir. If not for the clan leadership, she'd have executed him on the spot. But before Fenrir dies, he can still serve one last purpose by helping her deal with me. Nothing would please Seraphina more than Fenrir eliminating both Thor and me. I can see right through Seraphina's scheming, though I've no time to deal with her now. Fenrir was nearly deranged, fighting recklessly without regard for his own injuries, consumed by bloodlust. Thor and I struggled to hold our ground. In such confined quarters, Thor couldn't utilize his aerial advantage and was practically pinned down by Fenrir in his wolf form. Seizing the moment, Thor unleashed a burst of flames, forcing Fenrir back. I seized the opportunity to advance, using magic to block Fenrir's meridians, disrupting his energy flow and intensifying his agony. Seraphina isn't the only one who knows Thor's weakness. I personally conditioned Fenrir's body in our past life, so I know exactly how to handle him. Thor and I moved in perfect sync, driving Fenrir back toward the corner where Seraphina stood. Seraphina glared at us with venomous hatred. She'd always stood pristine on the sidelines during previous battles, waiting to claim victory. This was the first time she'd been forced into such a humiliating retreat. In our previous life, Thor never even used Phoenix Summon, let alone his fire-breathing abilities. Seraphina was completely caught off guard. Finally, I sealed the last meridian channel Fenrir needed to circulate spiritual energy. Grabbing Thor's arm, I hastily retreated, with his meridians in reverse flow and two conflicting bloodlines warring within him. Fenrir writhed in excruciating pain, sensing imminent bodily explosion and unwilling to die in vain. Fenrir mustered his final strength, just as I had in my past life, detonating all his spiritual energy in a suicidal blast. A deafening boom shattered the air as the violent explosion tore Fenrir apart. The shockwave sent us flying while the collapsing building rained debris around us. Thor spread his wings desperately to shield me, and through the haze, I felt a wave of warm flames. When I woke again, 3 days had passed. I was merely knocked unconscious by the blast, with no serious injuries. Fenrir had been reduced to a crimson mist. Seraphina barely clung to life thanks to timely medical intervention, though extensive blast injuries left her permanently bedridden. Yet Thor had vanished without a trace. Everyone claimed he'd been blown to bits protecting me, just like Fenrir, but I refused to believe it, stubbornly combing through the wreckage day after day. Then one day, beneath the rubble, I found an egg. I knew instantly. This was Thor. I went to Seraphina's courtyard. The once proud noble lady now lay bedridden, completely at others' mercy. Her eyes widened in horror at the sight of me. Why you? Where's father? Why hasn't he come to see me? I sat by her bedside and said, You don't know yet, do you? Elder Jared was found guilty of violating multiple clan laws days ago. He's been imprisoned. Why are you telling me about Elder Jared? I'm asking about my father. Seraphina refused to believe her father could be so heartless. Because Elder Jared is your real father, I said calmly. What did you say? Seraphina's face went blank for a moment before she erupted hysterically. I don't believe you. You're lying to me. You're lying. The whole clan knows by now. Elder Jared had an affair with your aunt, and you're the bastard child born from it. I continued. What's more, to seize the patriarch's position, Elder Jared would murder his current beastman whenever he found a stronger one to form a new contract. He's killed 7 beastmen so far. Now that the truth is out, he's been sentenced to life imprisonment. He can't even save himself now. I don't believe it. My father is the patriarch, not Elder Jared. Stop trying to deceive me. Seraphina desperately brainwashed herself, refusing to listen. Well, one was the ruler of the entire clan, the other a disgraced elder imprisoned for life. If the latter were truly her father, what future could she possibly hope for? I deliberately shattered her illusions. Aren't you curious? Why do you think Elder Jared backed you so strongly when you falsely accused me of theft? And wasn't it him who pulled strings to change the finals venue for you? Seeing Seraphina actually considering this, I scoffed. You actually believe he loves you, that he wants to play the doting father? Dream on. Elder Jared only did this because you're nominally father's child. By pitting you against me, his 5 offspring get their chance to climb the ranks. You lied. You just want to see me fail. Ember, I hope you die a horrible death. A horrible death. Seraphina completely broke down. I smiled dismissively. Before that happens, dear sister, you'd better watch your own back. With that, I called out clearly, Come in. A little girl pushed the door open, and Seraphina stared at her in horror as if seeing a demon. Seems like sister recognizes her already. I led the girl closer for her to see clearly. That's right, this is the child you saved all those years ago. You gave them quilts and clothes to help them survive the harsh winter, yet her brother showed no gratitude, dared to steal your mother's heirloom and was ultimately banished from the family. Word has it he got into a fight over scraps of food and ended up dead in the streets. Fortunately, his sister knows how to return a favor. From now on, she'll be taking care of your daily needs. Seraphina shrank back into the bed in terror. No, you can't do this to me, Ember, you can't. This will come back to haunt you. Ignoring Seraphina's curses, I told the young girl, Seraphina, did your family a great kindness. Make sure you repay her properly. The little girl opened her lifeless eyes and gazed faintly at Seraphina. Yes, master, I'll take good care of Lady Seraphina, with a faint smile. I left all grievances behind the door for those two to settle. The moment I pushed the door open, I could almost see Thor looking at me with concern. Upon closer inspection, the illusion dissipated like smoke, but I'm not sad, for I know Thor will return to me one day. The end. Story 2. The news that the end of the world is approaching has been making a big stir. My mother-in-law just refuses to believe it, even though it has been raining heavily for a month. She still insists that it's just the bad luck of the heavens. I went to my husband and tried to get him to persuade her. My husband gave me a sarcastic look. There's no end of the world. I think Mom is absolutely right. You people are just worrying needlessly. Seeing this, I stopped trying to persuade them and just stocked up several trucks of supplies on my own. Later, the end of the world really came. They snatched my supplies and then pushed me and my daughter into the sea, leaving us to drown. I was reborn. I stocked up a huge amount of supplies, moved to a new place, and replaced the security door with the one having the highest safety coefficient. This time, they couldn't break it open. Instead, they knelt in the pouring rain and begged me to share the supplies with them. I held my daughter and had a cold expression. What were you doing earlier? 1. Slap. I've already said that there's no end of the world. You're just wasting money. My mother-in-law had a vicious look on her face and slapped me across the face. I stumbled and almost fell down. She has been farming all her life, and her strength is really great. The slap made me see stars, and my nose and mouth were bleeding. I stood up, wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, and looked at her with pleading eyes. Mom, it has been raining heavily for a month. Even if there's no end of the world, we should make some preparations. Otherwise, when the flood blocks the road, we won't be able to buy anything even if we have money. Hearing me say this, my mother-in-law became even angrier. You young people have no sense. What's this? In our time, there were droughts that lasted a whole quarter, let alone a month. I sighed. She has been farming all her life and always considers the impact of natural disasters on the fields. For farming, a severe drought is indeed terrifying, but things aren't calculated like this. Can a severe drought be compared to a huge flood for people? In the evening, I found my husband and tried to get him to persuade his mother, but as soon as he heard that we needed to spend money on supplies, he immediately pulled a long face. I think Mom is absolutely right. You bitches are just worrying needlessly every day. There's no end of the world. There's no huge flood. You'd better give birth to a son for me as soon as possible. You're just holding that good-for-nothing girl and treating her like a son. Amid his roaring, my heart ached until I lost all feeling. I couldn't hear what else he was saying clearly. In my previous life, I held my young daughter and cried all night. In the end, I secretly stocked up a truckload of supplies, whether the end of the world came or not. This truckload of supplies could last for a while, but what was the result? In order to monopolize this truckload of supplies, they pushed me into the flood of the end of the world. Throw that good-for-nothing girl down as well. Who can stand her crying all night long? Hearing my mother-in-law say this, my husband was stunned and showed a hint of reluctance. My mother-in-law immediately started to persuade him earnestly. David, I've run out of milk for a long time. Will this child drink your milk? Her mother is gone. Do you think you can raise her? Listen to Mom. After the end of the world is over, Mom will find you a new wife. This time, choose a woman with a big but who can give birth to a son. I struggled desperately in the flood and kept begging I could die. But please let my daughter live. I shouted desperately that there was milk powder in the car and there was no need for breast milk. In the end, my husband's face turned ruthless, and he threw my daughter into the icy flood. Anyway, she's a good-for-nothing. Let her die. Amid my desperate cries, my daughter and I were submerged in the devastating flood, and they took the supplies that belonged to my daughter and me and managed to survive for more than a month before they died. Reborn, I'm not willing to accept this. I will watch coldly as they beg but get nothing, and watch them die in the flood of the end of the world and turn into tattered skeletons. 2. I was awakened by the pain on my face. You dead bitch, when are you going to cook for me? Do you want to starve this old woman to death? As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw my mother-in-law's vicious face and heard her sharp roar. The rain outside the window was howling, and everything seemed like it was yesterday. I was reborn. Dead bitch. Did you hear what I said? Last night, I took care of Lucy all night and hardly slept, so I slept a little longer today. But so what? I frowned and stared straight at my mother-in-law's hateful face. The memories of my Previous life came crashing in like a towering wave. I slowly got up and immediately slapped her across the face. Ouch. She covered her face in pain and stared at me with disbelief in her eyes. In the past, I might have just lowered my head and gone to cook. In this family that favors boys over girls, I've never had any human rights, but after experiencing my previous life, how could I compromise? Are you crazy? How dare you hit me? Can't I control you anymore? My mother-in-law roared and rushed at me. I slapped her back, her face immediately turned red and swollen, as if she had put on blush. If you dare to wake Lucy up, I'll kill you, you old hag. I stared at her coldly. How could she learn to be good? She has been arrogant and domineering for decades, and it can't be changed overnight. She pointed at me viciously. Good, you have the guts. Just wait until David comes back. I'll directly ask him to divorce you. You lowlife. Let's see who will want you when you have a child with you. My heart sank. It would be better if she didn't mention him. Just the mention of him made the hatred in my heart surge up. He was the one who pushed me into the sea. He was also the one who threw Lucy into the sea. My Lucy was only 3 years old. I stood up, looked around, and then picked up a jujube walking stick on the ground. My mother-in-law's eyes widened in surprise, and she quickly stepped back. Are you crazy, you? Ouch. I'm so old. How dare you really hit me? Ouch. Stop hitting me. Let's talk things over. Ouch. My mother-in-law ran more than a li away. I didn't bother to chase her. Since the end of the world is coming, I need to make plans in advance. I turned around and looked at Lucy in the swaddling clothes. My Lucy must never be killed again. I want to leave this vicious family. 3. What the hell, Mom? Did she hit you? Slapped you in the face and whipped you with a stick? She's gone too far. As soon as David came back, my mother-in-law went to complain to him, crying and sniffling. David, you know how old your mother is. Your wife almost killed me. I was chased and beaten by her like a dog. You have to stand up for me. David's face immediately turned ugly. Then he helped the crying mother-in-law to a chair. I'll go and see what she's up to. Is she really going against the heavens? Bang, my door was kicked open. Lucy had just been coaxed to sleep by me, and now she burst into tears, which broke my heart. My eyes immediately turned cold. Clara, are you really crazy? How dare you hit my mom? David walked up to me in a few steps and stared at me with his fierce eyes. Get out. You woke the child up. David was furious and choked my neck with one hand. What the hell of a child? She's just a good-for-nothing. It serves her right if she cries to death. A good-for-nothing can only give birth to a good-for-nothing. I admit that my emotions are not very stable. At this moment, I want to go crazy, especially after hearing his words. I remembered struggling to swim towards Lucy in the flood of the end of the world with my eyes red from crying. Then I grabbed the scissors by the bedside and stabbed at his neck. David was quick-witted and quickly stepped back. The scissors slashed through the air, and a sharp white light flashed under the incandescent lamp. David was terrified, and there were beads of sweat on his forehead. At that moment, he narrowly escaped death. We're getting a divorce. I'll move out tomorrow. You sleep with your mom today. I've set my phone to dial 110. If you dare to come in, I'll risk my life. I said these words to him word by word. David stood there, completely stunned. He rubbed his head, then turned around and went out, slamming the door shut. My mother-in-law had a crafty smile on her face. Well, did you teach your wife a lesson, Mom? I almost died just now. My mother-in-law. Is Clara really possessed by an evil spirit? Damn, this is too scary. If that scissors stabbed down yesterday, someone else would have died. Right. It's just that I reacted quickly. Son, you're right. In the old days, there were people possessed by evil spirits. What should we do? Slap. I walked out holding Lucy and stared coldly at the two people in the living room who were talking about me. The two of them immediately fell silent and stared at me in unison. After yesterday's experience, the way they looked at me was filled with a hint of fear. As if I were a ghost. You've told your mom, right? We're getting a divorce. I'll move out starting from today. After saying that, I turned around and left with Lucy in my arms. The two of them didn't speak until I had walked a long way. Mom, do you think she's going to move to a graveyard? Don't talk nonsense. She's going out to harm people. She's doing evil. I stumbled. I can't seem to wait for the end of the world. I really want to kill these two mother and son right now. 5. My leaving means nothing to them. After all, I'm just a woman who can only give birth to a good-for-nothing, and I'm also a good-for-nothing myself. In their eyes, Lucy is a good-for-nothing who hasn't grown up yet. What's more, I'm suspected of being possessed by an evil spirit now. They can't wait for me to leave quickly. This is for the best. The end of the world is coming in just a few days. I must hurry up and stock up on supplies. In my previous life, there were also many people with foresight when I went to stock up on supplies in my previous life. In fact, the supermarket selling food and oil had almost sold out, and it was almost impossible to buy anything. This time, I must act as quickly as possible. It's very inconvenient to hold a child, but I have no choice. I have saved a lot of money over the years. My mother-in-law and husband are very stingy. Spending money in this family is a luxury. I never expected that this money would come in handy at this time. I first went to the villa area with the highest security coefficient. The doors here are all made of steel, and the glass is bulletproof, with an extremely high safety coefficient. Moreover, the terrain here is high. The previous developer leveled half a mountain to build this place. It can be said that this is the best sales office in the province, which serves the rich. As soon as I went in, I received a lot of cold looks. I was dressed plainly and was holding a child. It's inevitable that I wasn't taken seriously, but it doesn't matter. After I paid the deposit in 10 minutes, all the gossip disappeared, and flattery took its place. I sneered disdainfully. These people don't know that the end of the world is coming soon. There won't be a financial system then. 6. I settled Lucy in the new house and then went out in a hurry. I first went to a car rental agency and rented a large truck, just to be safe. I rented it for 7 days directly. After 7 days, when the end of the world comes, I don't need to return this truck. As soon as I got to the supermarket, I grabbed all the remaining food and oil. After that, I started taking various cans, such as fruit cans, beef cans, and lunch and meat cans. Then I went to another supermarket and repeated the process. I went to 7 or 8 supermarkets in a row. Truckloads of rice, flour, and oil were pulled back to the villa by me. This villa is over 1,000 square meters, with its own yard and cellar. I'm not worried at all that these things won't fit. Then I unloaded the goods truck by truck. To prevent the rice and flour from getting worms, I also sprinkled some powder at the door of the cellar. After pulling a truckload of goods, it was already dark. I hurried upstairs to see Lucy. It's not okay to leave her alone for too long. This child has been good-natured since she was a baby. Even if I'm not there all day, she still sleeps soundly with a steady breath. I turned off the light and lay down next to Lucy. I thought in my mind, in my previous life, I also stocked up a truckload of supplies. Although they weren't rice and flour, they were all things that could fill the stomach. My mother-in-law and husband starved to death before waiting for the rescue from the country. Obviously, 1 truckload is not enough. I died too early in my previous life, so I don't know when the end of the world will end and when the country will start the rescue. This time, I must make thorough preparations. As soon as it dawned the next day, I immediately drove to the supermarket and started moving goods again. The money in my card was decreasing rapidly, but I didn't seem to feel the pain in my heart and kept stocking up on supplies desperately. When I came out, I happened to run into my mother-in-law and husband. The two of them were pasting missing person notices. My head hurt. It was really a case of narrow roads for enemies. I quickly pretended not to see them and got into the truck. The moment the car started, David also saw me and immediately shouted, "Aren't you going to stop?" My mother-in-law also turned around quickly. Watching me speed away, she wailed behind me, "This defeated daughter-in-law. She's spending my money like this. It breaks my heart." 7. After driving for 10 minutes, I glanced at the rearview mirror. I must never let that mother and son find this place, otherwise, according to their shameless nature, they will definitely move in brazenly. Then, the tragedy will repeat itself. Now, they must have realized something. They no longer believe that I'm possessed by an evil spirit. But so what? The end of the world is coming soon. They are reluctant to spend even a penny. They haven't spent anything. It's already good if they can last a week in the end of the world. They are doomed to die sooner or later. I quickly returned to the villa and started unloading the goods into the villa again. At this time, my phone rang. It was David calling. I frowned. I forgot to throw away the SIM card. After thinking for a while, I answered the call. "You crazy woman, when the hell are you coming back? Have I given you too much face? Where did you take that good-for-nothing girl?" The anger that I had just managed to calm down in my heart surged up again. I said, "We're divorced." "Divorce my ass. No divorce. I'm telling you, just keep hiding. My buddy works in the police station. It's too easy for me to find you. You'd better come back obediently." My face darkened. He could indeed call the police and say that I was missing or that I had run away from home. There was no doubt that the police would tell him my current address. This was going to be troublesome. "Do you hear me, Clara? Don't push me, we can talk. Hee, you realize we can talk now. It's too late, I'm telling you, you must be up to no good outside. Just wait for me to find you. Whatever you say is useless. I'll give you 500,000, we'll settle our score then. Fine, 8. I put down the phone, my eyes cold after paying the deposit for the house with the money in the card. I no longer had 500,000. I turned to look at Lucy. She was awake and playing by herself, not crying or making a fuss. I was fortunate to have such a sensible daughter. Then I breastfed her, and she fell into a deep sleep in my arms. I put her back in the swaddling clothes. After that, I went out and directly called the loan shark's number on the utility pole. The other side wasn't a good person. If I wasn't desperate, I wouldn't choose to take money from them, but to be fair, borrowing from them was the fastest way to get the money. I directly borrowed 500,000. When I was leaving, the person in charge threatened me with a smile on his face. Ms. Clara, remember to repay the loan on time. Then he turned and left. I sneered coldly. The world was about to end. How many of them could survive until the country's rescue? Borrowing money from them was a waste. After that, I followed the same pattern and kept borrowing from loan sharks. At the end of the day, I had 2 million in my hands. It was time to settle the score with David's family. They asked me to go home, but I stubbornly chose a coffee shop, although it had been raining heavily every day and there weren't many people out. At least there weren't just the three of us. I arrived at the coffee shop in the evening. The rainstorm was getting heavier, and I had to wear rain boots to go out. The floodwater was already up to my knees. I casually ordered a drink and sat by the window, slowly looking at the rainy scenery outside. Soon, David came in with his mother. As soon as they entered, they stared at me viciously. After hiding for so many days, you're finally being realistic. I slapped a bag of money on the table. Take it and get lost. Where even from now on, the expressions of the two of them were extremely vivid, especially the mother-in-law. She immediately came over and opened the bag. When she saw the stacks of neatly arranged red banknotes inside, the corners of her mouth were harder to suppress than an AK. Right after that, David snatched the bag and quickly put it on his back. What on earth are you doing outside? If there's a profitable business, don't forget about me. I was shocked by their shamelessness. 500,000 was enough to buy their lives, and they were still thinking about me. Why aren't you talking? Could it be that you're doing something illegal outside? The corner of David's mouth curled into a smile, as if he was about to threaten me again. The mother-in-law chimed in. Tisk, I've taken care of you for so many years, with the betrothal gifts and the wedding banquet when we got married. 500,000 is far from enough. I've taken care of your daily life for so many years. Calculate how much that is at 100 yuan a day. I was so angry that I laughed. How much do you want? The mother-in-law hardened her heart and stretched out one finger. David was taken aback. Fine, but I need a few days to prepare. Let's meet here in 7 days, and I'll give you 1 million. As soon as I finished speaking, the mother-in-law immediately opened her mouth. Do you really need that much time? I can't wait. Hand over the money here tomorrow. It's raining so heavily, it's not easy for me to come here. You should think more about the elderly. They were so excited about getting 1 million that they couldn't wait even a single day. How could I let them have their way? I said I need time to prepare. Otherwise, forget it. The two of them stared at me in silence. Finally, the mother-in-law spoke. 3 days. I'll only give you 3 days. Otherwise, we'll call the police and see what you're really doing outside. The police aren't as easy to talk to as we are. If these two weren't so cowardly, I would have directly said that I was committing a crime outside. Now that they had taken my money, they were accomplices. If it were someone with more courage, they might keep their mouths shut. But I had no doubt that these two would immediately go to the police station and turn themselves in. It would be terrible if I was caught just as the end of the world was coming, so I nodded. Just 3 days. Make it clear that if you dare to bother me in these 3 days, you won't see a single penny from me. After saying that, I got up and left. From a long way off, I could hear the excited sound of them counting the money. David, we're going to get rich. Yes, Mom, then I'll marry a pretty wife to give me a son and build another building. I sneered. I'm afraid they won't have that chance. As the art of war says, let you win first, and then let you die. 9. After that, the speed of stockpiling supplies started to slow down, because the streets were filled with water. Even the truck had to drive slowly on this kind of road, otherwise, the engine would take in water, and the car wouldn't be able to drive. I was cautious on every trip, and most of the supermarkets started to close and stop selling things. Probably the supermarket owners also realized that something was wrong. They planned to stockpile the remaining goods for their own consumption, but the terrain here was too low. Once the flood came, everything would turn into underwater ruins for thousands of years. I finally found a supermarket that was still open and stuffed everything I could into the truck. I filled the truck and left. When I got home, I unloaded the goods without stopping. The cellar was already full, and the remaining things were piled up on the first and second floors. Had almost finished stockpiling supplies. In the last 2 days, I bought some seeds and soil. In the end of the world, vegetables were simply a luxury. I planned to grow some vegetables in the apocalypse. Lucy was still young. In case the end of the world lasted for several years, she would need vegetables. Had made thorough preparations, but next, there was still a big problem to solve. My mother-in-law and husband were like ticking time bombs that would explode when the time came. I had to solve the problem of these two people completely. This time, they kept their promise and didn't call me for 3 days, but as soon as the third day arrived, my phone rang immediately. By this time, the hydrops in the street was already half a meter deep, and most of the cars couldn't go out. I wasn't afraid even if they called the police. David was nice at the beginning. How's the million you're preparing? I found it ridiculous. Couldn't he see that the floodwater in the street was already half a meter deep, and the rainstorm still hadn't stopped? Next, the river water would exceed the water level, and some of it would even break through the riverbed. It would start to sweep through the villages and towns, and everything would be annihilated in the flood. It could be said that civilization was already on the countdown. Sometimes I really want to know, did you and your mom really not stockpile any supplies? David was stunned for a moment. He probably didn't expect me to ask such a question. Of course not. Why waste that money? The rain really can keep falling like this. Those who start stockpiling supplies just because of some rumors are really crazy. His words were full of mockery and sarcasm. I laughed. This was for the best. I was just waiting to see how you would die. All right, hurry up and bring the million to that coffee shop. Then we'll be even, I said sarcastically. I have the money, but do you have the life to spend it? Can't you see that I'm just playing with you? During these few days of delay, I've already finished stockpiling supplies. I hope you won't be so shameless as to ask me for supplies then. I didn't listen to David's furious curses after that, because it was all going to end. In this life, the fate of Lucy and me was finally in our own hands. No longer would we be at the mercy of others, and we wouldn't die in the flood anymore. Wash away the sins of the mortal world. Come, the end of the world. 10. Under the continuous heavy rain for a month, the river water started to rise sharply, and the city's drainage system had already collapsed. On the 7th day of my rebirth, a deafening rumble came from the distance. Countless high-rise buildings started to collapse in pieces. A huge amount of floodwater started to sweep through the town. The terrifying waves hundreds of meters high could destroy a building with one blow. The city was collapsing at a visible speed. The flood was filled with the cries of people. I don't know how many lives were lost on the streets. These people were just unlucky. Next, there would be countless people who would starve to death at home because they were stingy or didn't believe that the end of the world was coming. Mom, the big flood is really here. David stared at the terrifying waves hundreds of meters high in the distance, his face filled with fear. Not only did they not stockpile any supplies, but these huge waves were enough to deal with them. At this moment, David remembered what he had said on the phone just now. Of course not. Why waste that money? The rain really can keep falling like this. Those who start stockpiling supplies just because of some rumors are really crazy. Thinking of this, he picked up the phone with trembling hands and made a call. Clara, you knew the news that the end of the world was coming from the start. You did it on purpose. You didn't plan to tell me and Mom at all. I laughed on the other side of the phone. So what if I told you? Haven't I told you? Enough. You're harming me and Mom like this. You'll get your comeuppance. I've already paid for my past life. Now it's your turn. You and your mom deserve to die. Then I hung up the phone and looked into the distance. There were some low bungalows there. In my previous life, they could barely survive for a month on the roof relying on the truckload of supplies I had. In this life, there was no need to go up to the roof at all because they didn't have any supplies. Even if they went up, they would just starve to death. Compared to drowning, it would be more straightforward to die now. 2 small black dots in the distance desperately brought a ladder between life and death. No one wanted to die in this life. They still wanted to go up to the roof. Fine, the flood didn't come that quickly, and they got this chance. Then what? They climbed onto the roof. Then what? I watched as they desperately climbed onto the roof. The huge flood that followed came in an instant and blocked their way down. I didn't know where the ladder was washed away in the flood. The two of them kept crying for help. But in the end of the world, everyone was worried about their own safety. Who could save them in the midst of the ruins? I sat on the balcony on the second floor holding Lucy. The reason I bought this house was that I could see the scene of these two people's desperate downfall. They couldn't find me anymore. In a few days, they wouldn't be able to call me either. The signal lines and high voltage lines would all be torn apart by the flood. Everything man-made was so fragile in the end of the world. 11 in the evening, I received a call. David on the other end of the phone had lost his former arrogance. And his words finally softened. Wife, I was wrong. Mom and I were both wrong. We're apologizing to you. Immediately, the once vicious mother-in-law took the phone, her voice trembling. Clara, Mom was wrong. Please save my son. I watched this scene coldly and then spoke on the phone. How can I save you? The two people on the other end of the phone suddenly fell silent. How could they be saved in this huge flood at the end of the world? Swim. The water here was more turbulent than the Yellow River. Going down meant death. So how could they be saved? The truth was right in front of them, but they stubbornly believed in a miracle. But a miracle is called a miracle precisely because it doesn't always happen. You tell me where you are, and David can carry me to find you. David beside her also spoke. Yeah, I'm good at swimming. I'm sure I can swim over. You must have stockpiled a lot of supplies these days. It's definitely enough for the three of us to hold on until the end of the world and the country's rescue. Ha 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 ha. I couldn't help but laugh at their ridiculous idea. Even though I knew that these words of theirs were impossible to achieve, I still didn't want to give them any hope. The river water was so turbulent that not only couldn't they swim, but even a small boat would capsize. Stop dreaming. I can't wait for you two to die. There was silence on the other end of the phone. The scolding I had imagined didn't come. Slap. David's angry roar came from the other end of the phone. It's all because you kept instigate me, saying that she can only give birth to a good-for-nothing. You kept telling me to marry another woman. Marry my ass. I was a bit surprised. David actually slapped his mother. Good son, how dare you hit me? Didn't you agree with what I said? Why are you bringing up these old scores with me now? It's my fault. It's all my fault. I could hear his regret from the other end of the phone, but what was the point? In a situation of lack of water and food, how many days could his regret last? I advise you to jump down with your mom and end it all. If we keep talking on the phone, my phone will run out of battery. There's nowhere to charge it in this end of the world. Hysterical roars came from the other end of the phone. Enough, Clara, even without you, I can find food. I know where all the former supermarkets are. At worst, I can dive to get the supplies every day. I wish you success. I hung up the phone with a smile. 12. The next day, David took off his shirt and tied a rope around himself. He also knew that I wouldn't help him, and he had to eat. If this went on, he would die in less than 3 days. It was better to give it a try than to wait for death. Give it a try and risk his life. David jumped in and was immediately carried away by the current. He tried his best to swim against the current and get back to the roof, but it was useless. He couldn't swim as fast as the river was flowing, and he was carried downstream along with the water. David completely gave up. Finally, he used all his strength to pull the rope and climb back onto the roof. He and his mother slumped on the roof, their eyes full of despair. Son, Mom is thirsty. Then go down and drink. I'm already full from drinking. The mother-in-law didn't even have the strength to get angry. She licked her dry lips. Son, I don't have the strength to go down. You go and bring some water up for me. David stood up instantly. We're all going to die. What's the point of drinking? How is it different how we die? You're so old. You should have died long ago. I haven't lived enough yet, and you still want me to go down. The mother-in-law's eyes widened in disbelief at what her son said. Human nature in the apocalypse can't stand the test, especially in such an extreme environment. The mother-in-law finally fell backwards with her head raised and never woke up. 2 lines of tears slid down from the corners of her eyes. The vicious life of the mother-in-law came to an end. 13. I was humming and taking care of the plants in the villa while holding Lucy and feeding her. I went to the balcony and looked at the small bungalow in the distance. One person was still sitting there, and the other had already fallen. Most of the anger from being reborn subsided, but the most crucial person hadn't died yet, and I couldn't completely relax. Just then, my phone rang again. Clara, please, save me. Where on earth are you? I stared in silence at the figure on the bungalow in the distance who was crying bitterly. My mom is dead. The person you hated the most is already dead. I really shouldn't have treated you like that. I'm really sorry. Give me another chance. It can't be easy for you to be alone in the apocalypse. I can be useful. I could tell that he sincerely realized his mistake, but it was already too late, not to mention that I don't want to save him. Even if I did, I don't have the ability to. If it were really that easy to save, why hasn't the country come for a month? David, don't you know, the person I hate the most is you. She just stubbornly thought it was good for her son, although it was hateful. It's not hard to understand. What I can't forgive the most is that you unconditionally chose to believe your mom and kept hurting me and Lucy. I'm telling you this one last time, and this is really the last time. She's not a good-for-nothing. She's my daughter, Lucy. There was the sound of silent sobbing on the other end of the phone. I waited for a long time but didn't get a reply from him, and the phone hung up with the last bit of battery. I withdrew my gaze and looked at Lucy tenderly. She opened her eyes at that moment. Mom, her voice was like a murmur, vague, but it made me burst into tears instantly. Mom is here. Mom will protect you forever. The wind on the balcony was strong, and I carried her back into the house. Only then did I realize that it wasn't me whose phone was out of battery. I still had over 40% battery left. I frowned and looked towards the distance through the window. A tall man looked at the river in front of him and plunged in with his head raised. It's over. I think he must have regretted it in the end. 14. The life in the apocalypse is very boring. Fortunately, with my daughter by my side every day, I'm not that lonely. Every day, besides watering the vegetables, I think about what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I have enough supplies in the villa and don't have to worry about food shortages at all. As for water, it's everywhere. I just need to pick it up with a kettle and boil it. The days passed slowly, and my daughter started to grow up, and I've been waiting for the country's rescue, but I don't know when it will come. Before I knew it, 2 years had passed. The water level of the river not only didn't drop but increased a lot. My daughter was already 5 years old. Thanks to her, there's finally someone to talk to. She seems to like listening to stories from the past. I always tell her stories before going to bed. During the day, I play chess with her. Mom, are there really that many people in the outside world? After the country's rescue, will we no longer be this lonely? Listening to her innocent words and the sincerity in her eyes, I smiled gently. Of course, there are a lot of people outside. The country's rescue should be coming soon. Then you can go to school, grow up, fall in love, and have someone you like. My daughter blushed. No way. I want to stay with Mom forever. I tilted my head and laughed without knowing why. There was a time when I was just as innocent. 15. In the blink of an eye, 3 years later, the food stored in the villa was finally running out. I didn't eat much every day and specifically picked nutritious food and vegetables for my daughter. She was already 8 years old and didn't look shabby at all. She was just like a girl from a normal family. Mom, eat some meat. You're getting thin. I nodded. Don't worry. I eat enough every day. It's you. You're still growing and need to eat more. My daughter was no longer an innocent child. The little girl already knew how to distribute food. Will the country really come to the rescue? I think about this doubt almost every day. It's already been 5 years. What a terrifying disaster this huge flood has brought to the world. Even such a large and powerful country hasn't recovered yet. 3 days later, I was taking a nap on the balcony. Lucy excitedly ran up to me. Mom, listen, this is the sound of the helicopter you described to me. I quickly opened my eyes and looked up at the sky. When I saw that huge thing, I couldn't help but burst into tears. In the azure blue sky, the bright 5-starred red flag was dazzling. Over here, my daughter and I kept shouting and waving at the helicopter. They finally seemed to have noticed us. 3 fully armed soldiers climbed up the rope ladder. The leader looked excited. It's really rare. This is the area that was hit the hardest, and there are actually people who survived. Come up on the plane with us. My daughter and I climbed to the front, and the 3 soldiers were at the back. I've already said that there's no end of the world. You're just wasting money. But at the end, after getting on the plane, they told me a lot. The world was almost destroyed. Even in our country, only 1/10 of the population survived, especially in this area where I was. It's exaggerated that only my daughter and I survived. I lowered my head and thought deeply. After all, we spent 5 years in the flood of the end of the world. Those were 5 years. However, you'll have a good life from now on. Other countries have low-lying terrain. When a flood comes, entire countries are often wiped off the earth. We're the absolute dominant power of the world now. houses are free, and education and medical care are also free. You only need to work 30 hours a week to support a family. Only after hearing these words did I finally raise my head. The end of the world didn't bring all bad things, but my daughter and I will always remember that devastating flood and cherish the hard-won happiness. Story 2. I was devoured. During the zombie outbreak, I was at my boyfriend's house meeting his parents. After all the food was gone, his famished, bloodshot-eyed family set their sights on me. I was tied to a chair and watched helplessly as they took a kitchen knife and sliced off my flesh piece by piece. Then I suddenly opened my eyes, and there was my boyfriend, persuading me to meet his parents. I sneered, knowing this visit would be far more tragic than suffering in northern Myanmar. This Christmas, the hotel's business is expected to triple. A voice from TikTok pulled me out of intense agony. I opened my eyes, slightly dazed. There was a knock at the door, and I instinctively tensed up. Having survived the apocalypse, any slight disturbance was terrifying. It took me a while to answer the door, only to find a courier with flowers. "Hello, Mr. Logan ordered these Christmas roses for you, cash on delivery." After saying the last two words, he looked at me with sympathy, but I couldn't help but laugh. The scene was exactly like something from my past life. It was true, I hadn't died, I had come back. The courier repeated himself. "Don't pay, send them back," I said coldly. The courier gave a thumbs up. "Well done, big sister, what's the use in being with someone like him? Better to break it off sooner than later, or you'll regret it deeply." I looked down. In my past life, I truly did regret it deeply. Today is Christmas, which means in half a month, the zombie virus will break out on a large scale. With this thought, I sprang up and quickly placed orders online: self-heating hot pot, instant rice, and noodles x 100 boxes, noodles and flour x 100 bags, canned meat and dried meat x 100 boxes, rice, oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar x 100 sets, tissues, towels, sanitary pads x 100 sets, disinfectants and cleaning agents x 20 sets, high-capacity power banks x 1000. As I paced back and forth in the house, I felt like I was forgetting something. Right, renovate the house. I heard that zombies have very sharp teeth. They could easily bite through the walls of a regular apartment. I quickly called my dad, who owns a renovation company. After hearing my request for an impregnable fortress, my dad was silent for a long while. "Be honest, did you sleep with some powerful character and then he refused to acknowledge you?" My dad, well versed in overbearing CEO novels, had quite the imagination. Eventually, after my earnest explanation, my dad still brought a large team of workers over in a grand manner. My mom came too, her hand ready to strike, her expression fierce. As soon as she saw me, she asked, "Did Logan bully you?" It wasn't so bad over the phone, but seeing them in person, my eyes teared up. As an only daughter, I suffered a lot at Logan's house in my past life. My dad even sent me the little remaining food at home using a drone. My mom, a normally fierce woman, sounded so submissive when talking to Logan's mom on the phone, afraid that a wrong tone could lead to me being mistreated. Seeing my state frightened my mom, and she urgently asked what had happened. I wiped away my tears. Now was not the time to cry. I didn't want to hide anything from them and told them everything about my past life. My parents were very accepting and didn't doubt my story. When they heard about my tragic end, they trembled with rage. My dad immediately got serious and started renovating the house with the workers. My mom began preparing for the things we would need if we were trapped. I stood aside, and my mom said fiercely, "You don't need to worry about anything. Just focus on getting back at them for what happened in your past life." With my parents' help, I finally had the means to deal with Logan and his dreadful family. At that moment, Logan messaged me to meet up. When I arrived, Logan had already bought himself a milk tea. Seeing me empty-handed, his eyebrows immediately furrowed. "Carolyn, today is my birthday," he said, looking at Logan. I couldn't suppress the loathing swelling within me. Love, or the lack of it, hides in the details. I couldn't believe I had never noticed how selfish he was. Back when I was trapped in his house in our previous life, he didn't even bother to pretend to care, never lifting a finger to help me and constantly berating me for being idle. And when it came to the point of consuming my flesh, he did so without a change of expression. If I had a knife in hand, I would have killed him. "Calm down, murder is still illegal." I controlled myself and feigned ignorance. So what? I knew he wanted a present. Every year on his birthday, I'd lavish him with expensive gifts since I was financially well off, but when it was my turn, he'd casually hand me some cheap trinket, claiming it was the thought that counts. If I ever complained, He'd accuse me of being materialistic and not truly loving him. Logan, looking upset, complained, "Don't you love me anymore? You didn't even bother to get a present." It seems true that love fades over time. Everything seemed to become a reason to complain about me, suppressing my anger. I responded with a smile. "I did prepare a gift. My father's getting old and mentioned he wants to hand his company over to you. I think that's the best gift, isn't it?" Logan was initially stunned, then overjoyed, almost losing his composure as he exclaimed, "Really?" I nodded with a smile. I could give it, but it remains to be seen if he could truly claim it. I always thought Logan loved me. But when the apocalypse came and money lost its value, I realized he had only been after my family's wealth. What disgusted me the most was that he always had his first love in his heart. In our past life, his first love fled to his house. He was so heartbroken, he would rather eat less himself to save food for his first love. In the end, he even agreed to sacrifice me at his first love's pleading. Since their love was so touching, I'd rather bring them together sooner. I arrived at Amber's place, a secluded alley. Men's curses and women's cries mingled together, creating a vulgar spectacle. Suddenly, a scantily clad woman burst out of the house. Bumping into me, she glared at me, cursing, "Are you blind?" I took the opportunity to show Logan's photo, then slowly picked it up. The woman snatched the photo, her eyes fixating on the expensive watch on Logan's wrist. I tugged at the photo, discontentedly saying, "Why are you looking at my boyfriend? We're about to get married." Amber immediately responded with enthusiasm. "Sister, your boyfriend looks rich," I said. "Of course, my boyfriend owns a company." Amber's eyes immediately gleamed with greed. She feigned politeness, inviting me to dinner as an apology, but throughout the meal, she kept fishing for details about Logan. I played along, innocently sharing everything Logan liked. When Amber heard how Logan still pined for his first love, her face lit up with joy. As we parted, Amber seemingly casually asked, "When are you guys getting married?" "In a week," I replied. "A week from now would be the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse, so Amber, you'd better hurry, otherwise, it would be a shame that I came all this way just to give you this tip." Ever since I mentioned my dad wanted to give the company to Logan recently, Logan has been going out of his way to be extra attentive and generous towards me. He would ask me out several times a day and never let me pay for meals, claiming it was his duty. How come he never felt it was his duty before? Clearly, it's all to win me over, but I'm not about to make things easy for him. "This place tastes terrible. How could you choose it?" I asked Logan angrily. His face soured, but for the sake of his company, he restrained himself from lashing out and continued to appease me. Admitting his mistake, I couldn't help but feel delighted seeing him like this. Although I couldn't immediately settle the grudge from my past life, making him embarrassed eased some of my resentment. Finally, after the meal, Logan anxiously inquired about the progress of the company transfer procedures. I glanced at him and slowly said, "Didn't my dad tell you? Once we get the marriage certificate, the company will be transferred." Logan seemed in a hurry. "Carolyn, can we complete the transfer before we get the marriage certificate? My mom thinks it's better this way. As their future daughter-in-law, you should consider the elderly's feelings." While we were talking, a call came through. Logan glanced at it and quickly hung up, looking guilty. I caught a glimpse of the caller ID. It was undoubtedly Amber's number. Amber sure moves fast. It only took her 2 days to dissuade Logan from registering our marriage. "I don't feel secure. What if you refuse to get the marriage certificate after transferring the company?" I said leisurely. Logan, hit by the accuracy of my words, turned pale. He forced a laugh. "How could that be? I love you so much. Besides, my mom has already accepted you. She doesn't want anyone else." Logan brought his mother into the conversation. When I heard him mention his mom, I almost couldn't maintain my feigned smile. "His mom has accepted me. That's the biggest joke. In my past life, the first meal I had at his house consisted of a cabbage soup and a plate of stir-fried greens made by his mom. Throughout dinner, she insinuated how unworthy I was for her son. I couldn't eat and got up in the middle of the night only to find her preparing a lavish meal for Logan, urging him to eat quickly before I noticed. I was so furious that I bought the earliest ticket out of there the next day, but I never expected the zombie outbreak to occur so suddenly. During the time I was stuck at Logan's house, his mom treated me worse than a servant. Part of the reason I chose not to completely fall out with Logan was because of his mom. If we had completely fallen out, I wouldn't have had the chance to make her experience the pain I went through. "But I haven't even met your mom yet. How do I know if what you're saying is true?" I challenged. Logan immediately responded, then I'll take you to meet her. Why should I go there? I don't want to leave. The thought of me going there to meet her was out of the question. Logan's face almost twisted in frustration, but he eventually compromised. Then I'll ask her to come and meet you. Would that be okay? I nodded and smiled. I want to see if your mom truly treats me well. If she does, then I'll agree to your request. Logan's smile overflowed instantly. Then I'll have her come to you tomorrow. I smiled. This was exactly what I wanted. In my past life, they bullied me when I was alone, treating me worse than a dog. This life, I'll let them taste the same feeling. After the meal, Logan wanted to come home with me, but I refused. My parents had turned our home into an impenetrable fortress, and if Logan saw it, he would surely be suspicious. I went back to my house alone. Our house has turned into a mini supermarket, with an overwhelming variety of food piled up everywhere. It would last us years. My dad is huffing and puffing as he installs iron bars. Given the thickness and density he's using, not just zombies, even bullets would have a hard time getting through. My mom approaches and asks, "How are things going?" Logan and Amber are together now. Tomorrow his mom is coming to see me. After I finish, my mom claps her hands and says joyfully, "Good, Carolyn, you mustn't be soft-hearted. She dared to treat you like that in her past life. This life you must make her pay dearly." I've shared my post-apocalyptic life with my parents, and they fully support me taking this chance to get my revenge. I grew up cherished by my parents, never expecting to end up suffering so much. Both my parents are furious and heartbroken. If it weren't for my insistence on taking revenge myself, my mom's fiery temper would have led her to confront Logan and his family directly. She tells me, "Don't worry about household matters. Your job is to take revenge. Once the apocalypse hits, we'll shut the doors and live our lives." I nod happily at my mom's words. Then my phone rings. It's a message from Logan's sister, Ada, sister-in-law. "Can you lend me some money?" I sneer. Had she not messaged, I might have almost forgotten about her. The indirect cause of my demise. Ada, in high school, is not great academically but is charming and always manages to cheer me up, so I dote on her immensely. Logan is stingy and poor, hence most of her allowance comes from me. Having no sister of my own, I always treated her like one, but later I realized Ada never saw me as family. All her sweet talk was just to get money from me. She calls me sister-in-law to my face but treats me like a sucker behind my back, ridiculing me in front of her friends while praising her brother. She's skilled at playing people off against each other. Once I was no longer of use in my past life, she immediately switched to calling Amber sister-in-law, with such affection it was nauseating to watch. Worst of all, if it weren't for her insistence that someone would come to rescue them, giving her family hope, they wouldn't have thought about consuming me. She was so sure of rescue because of a boy she had a crush on. She adored that boy, even planning how many kids to have with him. Destroying her hope would be worse than destroying her life. Since she's so fond of that boy, I'll thoroughly crush her dreams. I want to see if she remains as cheerful and hopeful as she was in her past life when she realizes no one is coming to rescue her. "I'll come by tomorrow to give you the money in person," she quickly replies. "Okay, thank you, sister-in-law. You're really kind, a perfect match for my brother." I smirk sarcastically. The next day, I head to Ada's school, choosing the interval between classes. Ada runs towards me excitedly, her eyes involuntarily fixed on my handbag, filled with envy and jealousy. I remember from my past life, the moment she saw I couldn't escape. She couldn't wait to snatch my bag, scolding that I didn't deserve such an expensive bag. "Is there a boy in your class you like?" Ada's face turns red, and her gaze drifts to a boy at the back of the line. Following her eyes, I see him. He's quite handsome but looks very young. I made an excuse to get Ada away and then approached him. "Little brother, how old are you?" The boy glanced at me and replied, "Just turned 16. He was still a minor. I had originally thought about making him like me and ditch Ada. I definitely shouldn't get involved with minors, perhaps seeing my dilemma. The boy actually smiled and said, "Sister, I have an older brother who's 25. Serving in the military and isn't married or dating anyone." Maybe I lost my mind for a moment because I went along with the conversation. "Then I guess I'll be your sister-in-law. With the apocalypse just a few days away, he won't have time to settle any scores with me." The boy's smile brightened even more. Feeling a bit more confident, I said, "Since I'm your sister-in-law now, take my advice, don't fall for Ada and don't talk about going to find her or anything like that." I thought for a moment and added, "Also, try to stock up on food at home these days and don't go out in 4 days. Playing the saint in the apocalypse is deadly." This is the most I can warn him." The boy looked thoughtful for a while, then nodded solemnly. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ada running over, panting, probably eager to ask me for money. I turned and walked away. I wasn't about to be the big fool who gives her money. I had just left the school gate when Logan messaged me saying his mom had arrived and asked me to pick her up. Glancing at the nearly 37-degree sun, I decisively replied, "Not picking her up, I'm busy." Logan, who was currently trying hard to please me, didn't dare get angry and had to go pick up his mom himself. "Could you book a restaurant then? My mom came over early in the morning and hasn't eaten yet." Hearing Logan's words, I laughed. "Eating? Perfect. I was just looking for a way to deal with his mom." "Sure, I'll send you the address later. You'll be satisfied." Logan was overjoyed, and I heard him tell his mom that a big meal was coming soon. His mom snorted coldly. "Not even taking good care of your future mother-in-law. Clearly not a good daughter-in-law." Her voice was loud, and Logan laughed awkwardly a few times, quickly explaining that his mom was just tired and irritable. I said with a smile that it was fine. After all, they would soon find out that I had an even worse temper. I arrived at the restaurant my mom had stakes in and directly booked a large private room, but when the waiter asked what dishes to prepare, I only ordered 2 dishes. One was cabbage soup and the other was stir-fried greens, and I made it clear they didn't need to be too tasty, just something fit for a dog would do. Not long after the dishes were served, Logan and his mom Flora arrived. Logan glanced at the table and frowned. "This place has poor service. Why haven't they cleared the leftovers from the table?" Flora also looked disdainfully at the dishes. "I don't know who eats this poorly. I only make such dishes for my dog." I pretended to be surprised and covered my mouth, saying to Flora, "These were specially ordered for you." Flora was momentarily stunned, and after realizing what I meant, she became furious, her voice trembling as she said, "What are your intentions, making me eat this kind of food, you wicked woman?" I pinched my thigh hard, forcing out a few tears, and pretended to be aggrieved as I said, "You don't know, the food at the restaurant is too greasy and not safe. Besides, given your age, it's healthier for you to eat something light." That's what Flora used to tell me when I felt wronged and upset in my past life. Flora was so angry she was lost for words and cursed, "You're talking nonsense." I stood up abruptly and said loudly, "It seems like you're just not satisfied with me. I've been working hard to prepare nutritious meals for you, and you still scold me. A marriage without the blessing of elders is not a happy one. If that's the case, I might as well break up with Logan." After saying that, I grabbed my bag and was about to run out. Flora and Logan were both shocked by my reaction. Logan quickly grabbed me, trying to calm me down. "Carolyn, Mom's just joking. She likes you so much." "Of course, she likes the dishes you ordered." He then anxiously looked at Flora, continuously signaling with his eyes. Flora glared at me resentfully but managed to suppress her dissatisfaction and forced a smile. "Logan's right, I'm satisfied. I've been focusing on healthy eating lately and can't handle anything too rich." Only then did I wipe away my tears, sat down slowly, and pointed at the vegetables. "Well, let's eat then. Make sure you finish it." Flora had no choice but to sit down and eat. Like in my past life, after a long day of travel, starving, she could only eat a plate of vegetables. During the meal, I went to the restroom, and when I returned, I overheard the two whispering. Flora frustratingly asked Logan when they would finally get their hands on my family's company. Logan also felt sorry for his mother, his eyes revealing a bitter resentment. "Mom, don't worry, once I get the company, you can scold however you want. Hurry up then. I feel like slapping that wretched girl every time I see her." Amber came to see me yesterday. She bought me lots of beautiful clothes. "I really like her to be my daughter-in-law." I sneered coldly. In my past life, Amber had also given Flora a bunch of clothes, all cheap goods picked up from street stalls, the total cost of which was less than a single piece of clothing I had given her, but his mother couldn't tell the difference. Hearing Amber's name, Logan's eyes also softened, his face showing rare tenderness. "Once I have the money, I can marry her in style." I deliberately made my footsteps louder, and the two in the room quickly adjusted their expressions. Logan got up from his chair to help me, gently saying, "Be careful, the table corner is sharp, don't hurt yourself." I subtly moved further away from him, fearing that getting too close might make me want to vomit. When saying goodbye, Logan asked me again about the procedure for transferring the company ownership. Seeming quite anxious, I looked at him. Indeed, it was time to end this game. I had no more interest in playing. the company will successfully be transferred in 3 days. Upon hearing this, Logan's face couldn't hide his joy. After he left, my dad called to ask if I was really planning to give the company to Logan. Although the company was useless in the post-apocalyptic world, he still found the idea of giving it to Logan repulsive. I leisurely replied, "Of course, I'm not going to give it to him. Not only will I not give him the company, but I will also take back everything he owns. When the apocalypse comes, and he finds himself with nothing, his expression will certainly be priceless. I also want to see, by then, whether he could still love Amber as much." 3 days passed quickly, and early in the morning, Logan came to find me excitedly. Flora followed behind him, including Amber. Seeing me looking at Amber, Logan hurriedly said, "This is my cousin. I brought her here to meet my future sister-in-law." Amber also looked at me and smiled, saying, "It's nice to see you again. Thanks to you, I was able to find my long-lost cousin. Don't be mad at him. I really wanted to see you, so I came." I scoffed to myself, thinking that seeing me was just a pretense. The real interest was in witnessing the company being transferred to Logan. I shook my head with a smile and took out the transfer documents. Logan's eyes practically glued themselves to them. Logan was eager to sign, but I flipped the documents over on the table. Everyone's face tensed up, especially Amber's, who looked like she wanted to snatch the documents. Logan gave an awkward laugh and asked, "What's the problem?" Tapping my fingernails on the table, I feigned an apologetic tone. "There's a slight issue." "What issue?" Logan asked anxiously. "My dad says you lack sincerity, that you just want the company and then plan to ditch me." Upon hearing this, everyone, except me, exchanged guilty looks. I continued, "My dad said, unless you transfer your city house and car to me, it won't prove your true love for me." Logan's face changed. The house and car were the results of his years of hard work. Losing them meant he'd have nothing left. Logan hesitated, and I leisurely waited for him. A person's greed knows no bounds. I didn't believe Logan would give up the company. Finally, before Logan could speak, Amber couldn't hold back anymore. She whispered seductively in Logan's ear, "Cousin, once you have the company, what can't you afford in the future? If your sister-in-law wants it, just give it to her." Flora also persuaded him from the side. Eventually, Logan made up his mind. I watched him sign the transfer agreement for the house and car, then I handed over the company transfer documents to him. Logan signed them ecstatically, with Amber and Flora crowding around. I made a phone call to my dad. "Dad, go ahead." "Do what?" Logan asked me, puzzled. "Oh, I just asked my dad to smash your house and car." Logan's face contorted in an instant. Since he had already signed the contract and could no longer tolerate me, he wrapped his arm around Amber and said proudly, "Carolyn, let me tell you the truth. I was never going to marry you. It's her I'm going to marry. You're nothing to me. You're not even worthy of tying my shoes. I'm fed up with you." After Logan spoke, Amber in his arms giggled coquettishly. "Speaking of which, I should thank you, otherwise, I wouldn't have found Logan, nor would I have the good days now and in the future." Flora even spat disdainfully on the ground, saying, "You think you could enter my house? I made you eat greens once, and I'll make sure you eat greens for the rest of your life." I quietly waited for a while until my dad called to tell me everything was smashed, ensuring Logan's family had nowhere to go. Then I stood up. "Logan, you will regret this." After saying that, I stood up and left. Behind me, Logan's voice, frantic and frustrated, echoed, "Carolyn, I won't regret it. The company is mine now. Let's see what you can do. Go beg for a living." Zombies have erupted. On the first day of the zombie outbreak, the world was in a state of panic. The streets were deserted, and those who were out hurried along. Supermarket doors were broken down by the crowd. Once an infected person entered, the whole place was overrun. I lay on a soft couch watching the live broadcast on TV. Suddenly, a mutated man lunged at the camera, startling me greatly. He was gnawing on a piece of flesh, his eyes nearly popping out of their sockets, his body turning purple, and his skin beginning to rot. My mom, annoyed, turned off the TV and said, "Stop watching, it's already happened." Then she threw a stack of books at me. "Memorize some classical poetry if you're bored." I quickly grabbed my phone and started watching Empresses in the Palace, which I had downloaded earlier. Before, I could only watch video explanations online, but now I finally got to watch it thoroughly. Just as I started, there was a rapid knocking on the metal door. My heart suddenly leapt. Who could it be? My dad picked up a heavy iron bar and crouched by the door. I peered through the peephole and saw Logan. He was banging on the door while fumbling to fit a key into the lock. I then Remembered he had a key to our house. Fortunately, my dad had changed the lock. He had also installed a listening device on the door to keep an eye on the outside. Through the device, I could clearly hear him talking to Amber and Flora. Amber was in a terrible state, fearfully asking, "Did she change the lock? What if we can't open the door?" I was almost bitten just now. A fierce look crossed Logan's face as he gritted his teeth. "If we can't open it, we'll break it. Once I get in, I'll kill her." For playing us like this, I couldn't help but scoff. Break in, even an excavator might not be able to break this door. The door might look ordinary, but my dad had reinforced it with steel, and this door was just the first barrier. Behind it were more barricades and wire mesh, making it impossible to get through even if they broke the door. Seeing that the key didn't work, Logan resorted to smashing the door with an iron bar, creating a loud thud. "What terrible people," my mom cursed just then. My phone rang. It was Logan calling. After a moment's thought, I answered. As soon as I did, Logan's sobbing came through. "Carolyn, we're at your front door. Please let us in, soon." Flora grabbed the phone, also crying. "Carolyn, let us in. It's tiring for you to be alone. I'll do the chores and keep the place clean, and cook for you." I scoffed. "Do you even believe what you're saying?" There was silence on the other end, followed by Logan's menacing voice. "Don't push me. Open the door. I know you have food inside. You must have known this was coming. If you don't open up, I'll tell everyone to come and raid your place." I never expected to keep it a secret. The door repairs were too conspicuous. Anyone who was observant would notice something was amiss. But what of it? It's the end of the world. I can't possibly save everyone. Can you at least open the door before we talk more? After that, I hung up the phone amidst Logan's roaring anger. For a long time, Logan and the others simply couldn't break through the door. After kicking it twice in frustration, they stormed off. On the 9th day of the zombie outbreak, communication devices largely failed. The government started using drones to relay messages, advising everyone to stay at home and avoid going out. But that was impossible. In these apocalyptic times, the toughest challenge was finding food. Staying shut in without a sustainable food supply meant starvation was inevitable sooner or later. Every moment, people were taking risks to go out in search of food, only to be torn to pieces by the zombies roaming the streets. Although our home was secure enough to be extra safe, my parents and I took turns keeping watch to ensure no danger approached. One night while I was on duty, I suddenly heard a faint noise at the door. My heart tightened. Could it be Logan returning, or had someone else set their sights on our house? I peered through the peephole and was stunned. It was the boy Ada had a crush on. He was holding a sign, neatly written with a marker. "I live next door. I'd like to stay with you guys. I have a lot of food at home, but I can't cook it. I haven't had a fresh meal in days." Even having food was a luxury in these times, yet this boy was being picky. Moreover, in these apocalyptic times, bringing in an outsider posed a huge risk. I was about to dismiss him when suddenly, the boy flipped the sign to reveal another message. Short but shocking enough to make my eyes bulge. "Brother, please take care of me." I then remembered a joke I had made about this. At the time, I thought I'd never see the boy again, but fate had other ideas. Obliged by his gesture, I went back inside to discuss it with my parents. When my parents heard he was still a high school student, they sighed. "Let him in. It's tough for a kid in these times." My dad opened the door and let the boy in, who respectfully greeted my parents. "Uncle, Auntie, hello, I'm Gail." Then, turning to me with a smile, he said, "Thanks, sister-in-law." My parents simultaneously turned to look at me. I waved my hands, laughing awkwardly. "It's a misunderstanding, just a misunderstanding." In any case, Gail smoothly moved in with us. Initially, we just saw him as a kid who needed a meal, but we soon discovered he was quite capable. He immediately set up a small drone with surveillance equipment at home, which could fly out and check the situation across the city. Yet, he didn't seem to think much of his own skills. Remaining very modest even when praised, he added finally, "Sister-in-law, my brother is even more impressive. You'll see when he comes to save us." I frowned. "Are you sure someone will come to save us?" Although the government drones kept announcing daily not to give up hope, real rescue had never come. In my past life too, if there had been any rescue, I wouldn't have died so tragically. So, I didn't believe in rescue. Gail's face grew serious. "Of course, the nation won't abandon us. As long as I can survive this dark period, dawn will surely come." Perhaps it was his certainty, but I found myself unconsciously starting to believe it too. On the 20th day of the zombie outbreak, the temperature plummeted suddenly. I was awoken by the cold, and there was my mom, draping another blanket over me. She had thoughtfully prepared for the winter, stocking up on plenty of blankets and quilts. These days are getting tougher. My mom sighed. I hugged her tightly and murmured, "Mom, you and Dad have to take good care of yourselves. I know I'm being selfish, I don't really care about others. I just want my parents to live their later years in peace and stability." My mom patted my head and nodded in agreement. When I went to deliver a blanket to Gale, I found him wide awake, his face lit up with excitement. He raised a conical device in his hand. "Sister-in-law, I've created something that can temporarily paralyze zombies," he announced. I looked at the device Gale referred to as an electric cone and asked, "You've figured it out, but what now?" Gale fell silent. I knew he wanted to mass-produce these electric cones and distribute them widely. This way, ordinary people would have a fighting chance to escape when faced with zombies, but this also meant that we would be completely exposing ourselves. Once these electric cones are out there, they'll leave traces, and traces will attract attention. Humans are creatures that seek benefits and avoid harm. If they know our place is safe, they will flock here in droves. Eventually, the situation will become uncontrollable, and it will only be a matter of time before we run into trouble. After a long silence, I asked Gale, "Do you really believe the government will come to rescue us?" His eyes still held the same determination. "Then let's start working on it tomorrow," I said. Gale looked up at me incredulously. I reached out and patted his head. "I'll believe in it once too, though I didn't get rescued in my past life. Perhaps due to time constraints or my own insignificance, I can't lose all hope. Because of that, having died once, I want to survive more than anyone else, but it's hard to support everything alone. One person can't survive alone for long." I went to discuss this matter with my parents. After hearing me out, my parents breathed a sigh of relief. "We've always wanted to do something," my mom said, "but you were so worried about us. We didn't dare to say anything." My dad slapped my shoulder and exclaimed confidently, "What's there to fear? Are we humans going to be defeated by zombies?" And so, we got to work. I reluctantly set aside my favorite drama, The Legend of Zhen Huan, and started assembling parts with my mom, huffing and puffing. After a few days, it felt like I was working in an electronics factory. My dad and Gale were responsible for using drones to deliver electric cones to those in need. Considering the need to keep our location a secret, the drones took several detours before dropping the electric cones. The recipients were excited, shocked, and some even knelt in the streets in gratitude. Perhaps considering our hard work, my mom cooked especially lavish meals during these days: kung pao chicken, braised pork, braised eggplant, fried shrimp, sautéed crab, cold noodles, and various other dishes that made my mouth water and energized me for work. On the 25th day of the zombie outbreak, the first batch of supplies arrived via drone. The previously desolate city center was revived with activity. Humans are strange creatures, just a glimpse of hope can ignite their intense will to survive. I watched through binoculars from the window, surprised to see many people on the streets wearing thick leather clothing. They covered their entire bodies and wore gloves with metal spikes, obviously as a defense against zombies. Some of the more daring ones. Not only is she unafraid of zombies, she even takes the initiative to attack them. In fact, once you overcome the inner fear and disgust, zombies are not really that scary. They're like the village fool, moaning all day but with very weak combat abilities. Gale has calculated that even an adult woman who can't even twist off a bottle cap can keep a zombie down with the right technique, as their limbs are stiff and once they fall, it's hard for them to get up. While I was looking through the telescope, Gale was fiddling with a device that looked extremely complex. According to him, he was communicating. When I put down the telescope and was about to continue watching my show, Empresses in the Palace, Gale excitedly ran up to me. "Sister-in-law, I just got in touch with my brother. He said he'll be back in a few days." I found his words a bit odd. "What does this have to do with me?" I had repeatedly told him not to call me sister-in-law. It was initially just a joke, but the kid never changed, and over time, I lost the desire to correct him. "Aren't you happy?" Gale asked me. Frowning, I shook my head. Gale then sighed like an old man and looked unusually distressed. "But my brother keeps asking about you. He seems to miss you a lot." I felt even more distressed. I hadn't even met his brother. Why does Gale act as though he and I are old acquaintances? Despite saying that, I dreamt that night. I dreamt of a tall, thin man holding my hand, trying to put a ring on my finger. When he lifted his head, it was suddenly the face of a zombie. I woke up immediately on the 30th day of the zombie outbreak. The rescue team arrived, the people in the city were overjoyed and it was very lively. Gail's rumored brother, and my rumored husband, Bid, also came. At that moment, he was standing patiently outside my door. I opened the door to see a tall young man in camouflage. He looked a lot like Gail but seemed more mature and gentle. He smiled politely and nodded at me. Miss Carolyn, hello, I'm Bid, Gail's brother. I stepped aside to let him in. He took off his coat, still stained with zombie remains, and folded it at the door before entering. Gail came up to meet him, and Bid glanced at him, saying, "The zombies outside are almost cleared, let's go home." Gail reluctantly looked at me. "I don't want to go back. There's nothing at home and I like it here." Gail had been living with us for a month, and my parents treated him like a son. Hearing this, they immediately said, "He's settled in well, why move? He's already moved all his food supplies here. Moving back and forth is too much trouble." Bid then looked at me. Suddenly, my heart started beating faster, and I coughed lightly. "Let him stay." Gail cheered happily. Bid sincerely thanked me. "Thank you." He was busy and couldn't stay long, so he soon said goodbye and left. Since the rescue team's arrival, the city was gradually coming back to life. Since our community was large and not severely damaged, it became a temporary refuge. All the survivors rescued by the team were brought into our community. Due to the shortage of rescue team members, many survivors in the community became volunteers to help settle and assist other survivors. My parents, who couldn't sit still, joined the volunteers the same day, and complained about me not doing anything all day. They also dragged me into this. In the apocalypse, any bit of compassionate help seemed incredibly precious. Many people cried upon seeing us, as if they had just been reunited with long-lost family. Days were busy yet fulfilling, but it was during this time that I encountered some unexpected individuals. Logan, Flora, and Ada. These people were angrily brought in by the rescue team and then forcefully thrown to the ground as if they were dealing with something disgusting. The surrounding gazes turned toward them, looking disheveled and shocked. Usually, the rescue team brought people in politely, but today they seemed unusually furious. Immediately, a few volunteers came forward to inquire about the situation. Upon hearing the rescue team's account, their expressions darkened. They resorted to cannibalism, feeding on a helpless woman. By the time we found them, only her bones remained. After saying this, one of the rescuers kicked Logan harshly. I had already guessed the truth when I noticed Amber was missing, but when the reality was laid bare before my eyes, I still felt shocked and disgusted. The apocalypse truly tests the human spirit. Logan, who once showered Amber with affection, ended up consuming her alive. The disdainful and condemnatory gazes of the people around were all directed at them. Logan cried bitterly, kneeling on the ground and bowing repeatedly. "We know we were wrong. Please don't drive us away." Flora cried even louder. "Have pity on me. I'm just an old woman who has suffered so much. If it weren't for the strict orders from above that all survivors must be rescued, the rescue team really wouldn't have wanted to save these cannibals." The volunteers also despised this family and, to prevent them from harming others, simply placed them in the most secluded corner of the community. They were also given very little food each day. After all, giving more would just be a waste. Logan and his family dared not speak out against their treatment, desperately trying to ingratiate themselves with the volunteers, but to no avail. One day, the desperate Logan family came to me. They were really in a pitiful state, their clothes tattered and their bodies emaciated. The look in their eyes was so desperate that I instinctively took a step back. These were the people who had literally consumed me in a past life, and in this life, they had eaten Amber too. Ada stepped forward first, her greedy gaze falling on my clean, nice clothes. Then she said, "Sister-in-law, please help us. Those damned volunteers always bully us." Flora looked tormented beyond measure, no longer the commanding figure she once was, almost pleading. "Carolyn, you're a good kid. I was blind before to think Amber was better. She doesn't hold a candle to you. I've severely punished Logan. He knows what he did wrong now." Logan, standing behind them, added with profound remorse, "Carolyn, it was all my fault before. I shouldn't have been seduced by Amber and then abandoned you for the company. Now, perhaps this is divine retribution for my wrongdoings." After saying this, he looked like a prodigal son longing for redemption. This family really missed their calling as actors. Perhaps thinking my silence was a sign of hope, Logan hurriedly added, "Carolyn, give me another chance. I promise to treat you well and never let you suffer any injustice. I thought by not leaving a way out for their family in this apocalypse. I would have settled our past life's grudge, but now, seeing Logan's hypocritical face and recalling how he had once carved flesh from my body in a past life, the images haunted me, constantly piercing my heart. I still harbor resentment towards them. I don't want them to have an easy time, not even for a moment. Life is still too comfortable for them now. Do you want food? Upon hearing this, a triumphant gleam appeared in the eyes of the three individuals. Flora even spoke up. Are you going to fetch it from home for us? No need for you to bother. We can go ourselves. Ada's gaze remained fixed on my clothes as she ingratiatingly said, Sister-in-law, we can go by ourselves. Seeing their greedy expressions, I couldn't help but smile. Sure, just don't regret it later. I led them up the narrow staircase. I thought your house wasn't in this building. Logan asked suspiciously. We moved. Don't you trust me? Upon hearing this, Logan immediately flashed a sycophantic smile. How could I not? I love you so much. I would believe anything you say. Ada chimed in from the side. Sister-in-law, my brother adores you the most. By the way, do you have any clothes? I don't look good in these. After holding back for so long, she still couldn't help but speak her mind. I nodded. You can take whatever you want. Ada quickly thanked me, but her eyes inadvertently revealed a hint of mockery, as if laughing at my foolishness. As we reached the turn in the staircase, I pointed to a room. It's in there. I'll go in with you to make sure you don't take the wrong things. Flora quickly stopped me, pretending to be concerned. You've walked such a long way already. Your feet must be sore. Rest a bit. We'll get it ourselves. And we promise not to take too much. Ada and Logan quickly nodded in agreement. Their greediness has only grown stronger over time. But that's exactly what I wanted. I nodded, and Logan's group rushed eagerly towards the supply room. I turned around and sounded the alarm. The real drama began. Supplies are of utmost importance. The alarm triggered everyone to rush over, and there were Logan and his family, being angrily escorted out by the guards, their faces filled with terror. Logan pointed at me and shouted, Let go. I didn't barge in here. She let me in and told me to take whatever, claiming this was her place. I feigned great insult and angrily retorted, How could I possibly let you just take supplies? Then I said to everyone, I saw them sneaking around suspiciously, so I followed them, only to discover they were trying to steal the supplies. People tend to be biased, and this family's notorious behavior had already disgusted everyone, so naturally, they chose to believe me. Just yesterday, they were secretly asking me about where the supplies were kept. I knew they were planning to steal. Suddenly, an angry woman exclaimed, I knew they were no good, rushing to grab things as soon as they entered the warehouse, just like bandits. Carolyn must have been out of her mind to bring you here to rob us. Stop your lies and behave. A guard, furious, kicked Logan. Logan glared at me, his eyes as if he wanted to devour me alive. Seeing him like this, I was reminded of an incident from my past life. In those last days, Logan's family had no food left, but a neighbor did. The neighbor was fierce, and they didn't dare to rob openly. He tricked me into believing that it was their other home and sent me to get some food. I was so naive and trusting. At the time that I just went. As a result, I was caught by the hostile neighbors who beat me up, treating me like a thief. When I explained that I was there to get food, the neighbor grabbed me and confronted Logan's family face to face, but Logan insisted that no such agreement existed and accused me of trying to steal on my own initiative. Flora slapped me, calling me a bad seed. Ada openly and covertly mocked me, suggesting it was in my nature to steal as I had stolen from my own home before and remained unrepentant. I think, at that moment, my eyes must have been filled with the same hatred as Logan's are now. Later, they used my supposed bad character as a reason to collectively decide to eat me. Logan was in pain, grimacing as I bent down and whispered softly, Being wrongfully accused feels terrible, doesn't it? But this is the fate you deserve. Also, Amber was personally delivered by me to your side. I thought you would at least save her life, but you were so heartless. She must be cursing you in hell, wishing she could flay and dismember you. Something painful and fearful seemed to be stirred in Logan, causing him to tremble all over. Logan and his family were then escorted away by the guards. Stealing supplies is a serious crime, and in our community, nobody has sympathy for those who try to steal their food. The future looks grim for Logan and his family on the 200th day of the zombie outbreak. The situation was brought under control. Reconstruction work proceeded. steadily and orderly, and the number of zombies on Earth continued to decrease. Logan's family became pariahs in the community, despised and shunned by all. Whenever people saw them, they couldn't resist spitting in disgust. Their daily lives became a living hell. I wondered if, after they had eaten me in a past life, their days were also filled with such misery. If so, I felt less hatred since many were avenging me. They no longer dared to provoke me, cowering whenever they saw me. I thought it would always be like this. But then Logan started troubling me again. One day while I was checking supplies, Logan suddenly embraced me from behind with deep emotion. He said, "Carolyn, I've missed you so much. You were always the best to me. I regret everything." Truly, fearing Logan's harassment, I always carried a stun gun, which could handle even the dullest zombies, let alone Logan. I pulled out the stun gun and shocked him, causing him to scream in agony and jump back several meters. He glared at me, dissatisfied, then quickly put on an affectionate facade. "Carolyn, I really missed you. I never loved Amber. It's you I like." I scoffed at his poor acting. "You have 3 minutes to leave, or I won't be polite." Logan stared for a moment, realizing my genuine disdain, then suddenly laughed shamelessly. "Not polite? What can you really do to me? I only have this one life. Can you really drive me out?" I was so angry I almost couldn't hold the stun gun steady, but Logan was right. There wasn't much I could do to him. The most I could do was beat him up, but as long as he was alive, he wouldn't care. In this post-apocalyptic world, aside from life and food, nothing else really poses a threat to a person. She can, and I assure you, if you keep pestering her, the community definitely won't shelter you. Suddenly, Bid's voice came from behind me. He still carried the dust of travel, but his formidable presence was undiminished. Logan knew that Bid was the captain of the rescue team and had the authority to make him leave. His face turned pale immediately, and he nodded and bowed with a forced smile. "I was just joking. How could I bother her?" Bid's face was stern. "Remember what you said." Logan quickly nodded, then scurried away. Bending at the waist, Bid walked up to me, opened his palm, and there lay a white rabbit creamy candy. He spoke somewhat awkwardly. "I took it from my supplies. I don't eat these." Half a year after the apocalypse, food supplies had depleted, and such candies as the white rabbit had become rare treasures, hard for ordinary people to even see, let alone eat. And he said he didn't eat them. I took the candy, unwrapped it, popped it into my mouth, then squinted and smiled. "Delicious." Bid sighed in relief. He was about to say something when suddenly a scream came from upstairs. It was my mother's voice. Our faces changed instantly and we rushed upstairs anxiously. Our house had been burglarized. We lived in a low-rise building, and before the apocalypse, my dad had secured the windows with wire mesh to prevent anyone from climbing in through the pipes. However, the mesh had been cut open to allow drones to pass, creating a small gap. The thief had climbed in through that gap. By the time my mom arrived, the thief had already escaped, and the room was in complete disarray. Such a small gap could only be maneuvered by a petite girl. Bid and I exchanged glances, both coming to the same conclusion. Logan's sister, Ada. Logan's sudden appearance to bother me was already strange. He clearly knew that we had fallen out, and there was no chance of reconciliation. His earlier behavior seemed less like an attempt to make amends and more like a stalling tactic. This also explained why Ada had escaped as soon as he left. At this moment, my mom finished checking the house, her face turning pale instantly. With a trembling voice, she said, "Carolyn, it's over. Your dad's medicine is gone." This was a blow that left me stunned on the spot. My dad had chronic hepatitis B and was already showing clear signs of cirrhosis. The condition needed constant treatment with antiviral drugs to stabilize. Without the medication, the risk of an outbreak was extremely high. My parents had prepared well before the apocalypse, purchasing enough medication from major hospitals to last my dad for the rest of his life. But I had never imagined Ada would specifically come to steal my dad's medication. I suddenly remembered that I had once told Logan about my dad's condition when we were close and intimate. Who would have thought that now he would stoop so low as to steal my dad's medicine? I immediately turned and ran outside to find Logan. They must have prepared to flee after stealing. Bid hurriedly followed me, but when we arrived at Logan's place, we only found the bodies of Flora and Ada. From their wounds, they appeared to have been brutally stabbed to death. Ada's eyes were still open, her shock evident even in death. Clearly, Logan had killed them. Had Logan gone mad, the medicine was gone, and so was Logan. Only a note was left on the table. To Carolyn, "I told you I would make you regret. You forced me to eat Amber. Now I will make you watch your dad die from his illness." I almost fell, but thankfully, Logan was there to catch me just in time. Logan's expression was grim as he said, "They couldn't have gone far. I'll go look for them right away." I decided to go with Bid to search for Logan. Logan was out of his mind with worry, and I couldn't be at ease if I didn't go along. Searching for someone sounds easy, but in this post-apocalyptic world, it's incredibly tough. Once we left the residential area, all we saw were ruins and desolation. Even rescue teams struggle to find survivors, let alone people who are actively avoiding them. By nightfall, there was still no sign of Logan, and I felt a sense of despair taking hold of me. "Do you know what that medicine is?" Bid asked me. I nodded quickly. After a moment of thought, Bid suggested, "Then let's drive to the pharmacy now. They can't all be gone." I looked at Bid with gratitude. As I was about to get into the car, Bid suddenly received a message from his superior. His expression darkened bit by bit, and I had a bad feeling about it. Indeed, Bid sighed deeply. "The higher-ups have reported that the last wave of zombie attacks is coming. The zombies will self-destruct, spreading the virus through the air. They've ordered a lockdown, strictly prohibiting any outdoor activities." My heart sank. If we can't leave the house, doesn't that mean I won't even have a chance to find the medicine? Bid took me back home, and as we approached the door, he solemnly promised, "As soon as there's a chance, I'll find Logan and get the medicine." I nodded weakly. With the final wave of zombie attacks underway, he would be too busy to find Logan. After entering the house, my father could see the distress in my expression and felt uneasy himself. He patted my head, trying to comfort me. "Don't blame yourself, this isn't your fault." I shook my head, feeling as though it was my fault. If only I had been more cautious initially and kept quiet about my dad's illness to Logan. If only I had been harsher, perhaps even killing Logan directly, then he wouldn't have had the chance to survive and pose a threat to my dad again. If only I had been more alert and spotted the flaw in the window earlier. I spent the whole night in the living room, blaming myself, eventually trying to console myself. There was only a risk of disease flare-up, as long as I took care of my dad. We could minimize that risk. After the movement restrictions, I made sure my dad exercised daily on the treadmill to keep his physical condition up. My mom also went out of her way to prepare nourishing meals for him. To ease our worries, my dad diligently followed our routines. However, as the lockdown prolonged, his symptoms of discomfort became increasingly apparent. Since communication devices were mostly restored, my mom asked around in various groups, but no one had any medicine then. One day, my dad fainted. My mom and I frantically moved him to the bed, during a critical period of zombie virus transmission, with rescue teams strictly forbidding anyone from going outside. Looking at my pale-faced dad on the bed, I suddenly felt a deep sense of despair. My sole purpose after being reborn was to ensure my parents lived healthily. In my previous life, I had been unfilial, not being by their side when the zombie outbreak started. Not only that, but I also caused them endless worry. Night and day, I've always felt a profound sense of guilt towards them. This illness of my dad's felt like the last straw breaking me. Amidst my mom's sighs, I broke down and sobbed uncontrollably. My mom stood helplessly at first, then came over to embrace me, tears silently streaming down her face. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Neither my mom nor I felt like answering it, but Gail went ahead and opened it. Bid, fully covered in protective gear, rushed in and pulled out a bag from his pocket. It was a large bag of antiviral medications. My mom and I were overjoyed. We quickly gave the medicine and water to my dad. After taking the medicine, my dad's complexion improved significantly. We were both immensely grateful to Bid. Bid, with a gentle look in his eyes, simply waved his hand and said, "It's what I should do." Seeing my dad getting better swept away all my depressive feelings. "Where did you find the medicine?" I asked him. Bid paused for a moment, his tone slightly colder. "In his company, before the apocalypse, he had turned into a zombie, and we had to kill him." Upon hearing this, a look of relief flashed across my mom's face. "Good riddance, better dead than harming others," she said. I shared the same sentiment as my mom. The zombie virus is under control now, and we should be able to lift the lockdown soon, Bid added, a rare smile appearing on his face. On the 250th day of the zombie virus outbreak, its spread was finally under control. The security in our community wasn't as tight anymore, as everyone saw a glimmer of victory. That day, I checked my phone and suddenly found out I had become a well-known figure in our community group. It was all because of my loud crying that day. Someone had asked in the group if someone was crying, showing genuine concern. Before the lockdown, We all used to hang out together, which made our bond stronger. However, due to the danger of zombies, the rescue teams were wary of any malicious intentions, so they didn't allow people to share which building or apartment they were in, so no one knew it was me crying. Later, my mom spoke up in the group saying it was me. She didn't dare mention my dad's situation, fearing someone like Logan might appear, so she just said I was crying from hunger. Everyone knew the pain of hunger in the apocalypse, and they started offering food to me. People in the group would tell my mom they had cooked something delicious and suggest sending it over with a small drone. Being a sincere person, my mom felt obliged to return the favor and began making snacks to share in the group whenever she had the time. Over time, our family received treats from other families every day. Sometimes it was a few lopsided egg tarts, sometimes chive pockets, and many other things whose names I didn't know. Eventually, it seemed like the community unintentionally became one big family. One second someone would be desperately asking for cooking spices in the group, and the next, my mom would start preparing them. Just as she finished packing all the spices, the person who had been shouting in the group would start again. But this time saying, "Stop sending, my house is about to flood." Their exaggerated words made everyone burst into laughter. On the 300th day of the zombie virus outbreak, the last zombie on Earth was eliminated. Every place celebrated the Great Liberation. The zombie disaster was over. Our city's survivors were ranked highly nationwide, repeatedly praised by leaders. After the disaster, the focus shifted to reconstruction work. Bid was supposed to be transferred to a bigger place, but he requested to stay. Everyone knew that meant he was sacrificing his career prospects, but Bid didn't mind. He seemed relieved. After a disaster, being with family is what matters most, he said. I glanced at him. "You could take Gale with you." Bid suddenly laughed, his eyes bright and intense. "You know I wouldn't just want to take him," he said. My face turned as red as the evening sky. The laughter in Bid's eyes deepened. He gazed at the last trace of twilight on the horizon. The sun has set, but it will rise again. Just like the journey of humanity, though we encounter darkness, light will always follow. I couldn't help but nod in agreement. The light will come.